Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line.
Do not forget. Expect us.
This is a message to all supporters. A message to all freedom fighters, to all dissenters, to all forgotten. A call to all intellectuals, to all journalists. A call to all freethinkers. A call for intelligence. This is a call to all poets. A call to the strong and the weak. A call to all young people. To the wise, to the astucious. We want you to join us. We are on the streets of Tokyo. In the skyscrapers of New York. In the lanes of Paris. In the cellars of Munich. On Moscow's icy places. On the cobbled streets of Dublin. This is a call to all people. To the youth. Join us in the fight for freedom of information. Search for us, and you will find us. We are among you. We are you. Everyone you speak with can be a member of Anonymous. We have no leaders, only an orientation. We have no targets, only results. You cannot stop us, because we are an idea. We cannot be eliminated, because we are invisible. If you try to mock us, we will mock ourselves. If you try to slander us, we will accept the defamation. We are the king's jesters with daggers. We are the dancing bear which tears to pieces the laughing mob. We are anonymous. We are a legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us, just as we expect you.
councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
There you go.
Okay. Welcome everyone again with this is a new episode of Anonymous Bites Back. I'm not sure where you guys are listening to us because, of course, we get censored a lot. But thanks for listening anyway. What is the episode number of tonight?
164.
Okay. Okay, we got a special guest in tonight from the Netherlands, Rico Brouwer. He's an activist and a journalist, and he's been affiliated with the Pirate Party in the Netherlands for a long time. But he's also been very active in reporting about the whole Assange situation and about censorship on the internet and the attack on free press in general. He also has a podcast. Not sure if I should pronounce it in Dutch, but it is podcast. So that is POTKAARS on Twitter at podcast at POTKAARS. So he does all kind of interviews with people in the activist scene and in the internet scene in general, fighting for human rights online. He also has a YouTube channel with a lot of amazing guests in. He told me he is actually working with this YouTube channel. He's just one of the interviewers there, but I'm sure he will explain this later about this whole thing. So I know that that Rico did a great interview with the United Nations expert on torture, which is about Assange, and it is bound to release tomorrow. Nations. We thought it would be interesting to discuss some things with him tonight, and get ourselves updated about the Assange situation, and especially about what Niels Melzer had to say, and all these things. And so, Rico, welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. And a beautiful introduction. Yeah, the podcast thing, that's a bit... So I started this channel for a Dutch audience. So yeah, the name I came up with was... it's a candle. Kaars in Dutch is a candle. So pot with a candle in. I light a candle at the start of the show. It's a bit corny, although the guests relate to it. And everybody laughs about the little candle sitting in there. In a podcast, but it does
a little bit of light in the darkness. So
that's what it is.
Definitely feel that.
Cool. I should have the thing burning now. Currently, it's just midnight in Holland where I am. Candle is not. All right.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely, we want to know as much as we possibly can about the situation surrounding, Julian Assange. Your take on what you think is gonna happen here in the future. What you think should happen in the future. I mean, really, there's so much to talk about with this case. I kind of want to get as much information out as we possibly can.
Cool. So let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we can start real quick with the new updates. I mean, so you spoke with Niels, right? And so I was lucky enough to listen to your interview already. It will be aired tomorrow. But what always impresses me is how much knowledge he actually has about everything like this, and especially about the fact that the different states, Britain and Sweden and America, are like kind of breaking the law together to do everything to punish Assange. And what interests me is also that he is so active in the whole community, in the public debate. And I was kind of shocked by that, because he's kind of like having like an official position, right? And I've never seen that before from anyone. How do you feel about Niels and how he's doing it? Like, it's different, right?
I don't know what to compare it to. So I did an interview in January with Alfred de Zayas, and he held a similar position at United Nations earlier. And I came into contact with him on the situation in Spain with Catalonia and with Venezuela. And Alfred de Zayas has also visited Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy a while back. And they both respond similarly. They have a vast knowledge and they start quoting the official texts in human rights charters and stuff. If you interview those guys, you get all those article numbers thrown at you. So, but to my knowledge, they're both actively online. Now, what Nilsson does differently is he wrote an op-ed, opposed editorial piece that he couldn't get published. Now, that was explicit and not so much in United Nations language, so to speak. But he went into the situation, in the allegations that were made against Julian Assange on the what is it? They call it rape or sex crime or whatever it's supposed to be in Sweden. And he went explicit. And I read about condoms used in as alleged evidence. And I only read that not too long ago, like a week ago. I said, oh, finally, someone that goes into the details, what's actually going on there. So I contacted him, and he was quick to respond and joined in on an interview that we recorded last Wednesday, and it's supposed to be online in a couple of hours from now.
Yeah, we plan to promote it like crazy, of course. I mean, this is a very powerful information, and I really like the fact it was like a real in-depth interview, and I haven't seen that much yet. Of course, you see it a lot written in paper, but like it's far more powerful if you hear the guy speak, if you hear yourself asking the right questions. I mean, that's also a thing. So yeah, and some of the things we discussed on the show before too already about the whole condom thing, and I mean, Niels also wrote about this already before.
Well,
what
there
worried?
isn't.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. Yeah, there's always and we're dealing with a European episode, so there's always a bit of lag. I mean, it's bogus. So I mean, for the people that don't know, which I think is what we're informing people now, he's being accused of not wearing a condom during sex. That's what he's accused of. Now, they are pushing they when the media talks about it, they always frame it as rape or sexual assault. They use those words specifically because of the connotations, and that's not even what they're accusing him of. They're accusing him of not wearing a condom and accusing him of that. Not even saying that that's what happened. They're just that's the whole story from start to finish. But they like to frame it as a sexual assault or rape. They even ran stories trying to frame it in as child molestation, and none of that stuff is true.
Yeah, without wanting to sound like a conspiracy theorist, they did use this whole narrative before with other activists, right? You have Jacob Applebaum from the Tor Project. He was framed in a similar way, like he was like harassing ladies and stuff, and all of it were just rumors. Nothing was ever proven. And we have, of course, the Matt DeHart case, who was actually receiving leaks from the FBI about the CIA, all kind of secret stuff, and then was framed of being some kind of pedophile because he was using Tor. So we see that we do see it often, this kind of narrative.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, there was a couple of U.S. officials. Goodness, I don't know which head of the alphabet soup agency that they were. That came out and specifically ran a story claiming that he was a child molester, and then never redacted the story. Just said it on live TV, let that go through, push through the media, his quotes because of his position, and then never came out and said, "Oh yeah, I just totally made that up."
Yeah, the sad thing, it works, right? It does work. It sticks. So if you talk to people about Assange, what are they going to remember? Oh yeah, he was on the news a while back, something about rape. So you're going to talk about that rapist, that's what you get back. So that kind of a framing, it is fairly effective to the general public.
But we have to. I mean, we have to expose it for what it is. It's fake. It's meant to destroy his character, and they're doing that on purpose. It's just one more way that the government is trying to punish him. And what a horrible way to punish someone. Or there's just so much wrong with that kind of mindset. But that's why it's being done, to discredit him.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, if Niels Meltzer, the special rapporteur of the United Nations, he's the authority globally on when torture is taking place or not. And here's state-sponsored torture, and not just one state, but a couple of colluding states, like United States, United Kingdom, Sweden, and Ecuador are in on it together. And he's very explicit about it. He says, well, this is framing. It's not. It's punishment might be a part of it, but well, he calls it torture. And he is the authority.
Yeah, so there's a thing, Rico. It's like it is not only to discredit him, but there is literally torture going on, like psychological torture. They silenced his voice, so to speak. He can't talk back. He can't deny any of these things. He can't show proof that it isn't true. And then they are like group mobbing him. They're like, the media is lying, the officials are lying, and the repeaters are lying. They don't just repeat all the lies spread by this media about him. And that is like the fact that he can't speak back, that already shows it's like a form of psychological torture that's happening.
Now, do we know if doctors have been able to get to see him again? Like, I haven't heard anything from that in a while, really, about his health situation.
Yeah, so Niels went to Belmarsh prison, where Assange was taken after he was taken out of the embassy, and he took two medical specialists with him that are specialized on torture victims, and they did an extensive assessment on the health of Assange. Now, physically, I mean, if I think of torture, I would think on the physical stuff, right? Like hurting people physically with the body, but real torture is the psychological part. That's the worst thing about it. And they did a official assessment, and there's protocols for this, Istanbul Protocol, I think he quoted, and they ran that thing with Assange. We're there for a couple of hours to make the assessment that Julian Assange shows every sign of prolonged, torture.
And the PTSD and mental issues that come along with that. It's unfortunate, and that's something that we can thank things like the Patriot Act and changing what America considers torture, and the ways that they do it are being used right here. There was a video leaked a while ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, that I saw, that somebody had managed to get a camera inside of the prison, but I hadn't heard of a doctor. That's what that's something I definitely worry about. Is his health inside of a situation where you have no opportunity to check on him. There's some bad people that don't like him.
Yeah, so just another example of how they psychologically attack him. Like everyone knows he is like a great speaker, right? A great public speaker, and he's very intelligent. And the simple ways in how they touch him, I read the fact that they even like took away his shaving kit on purpose, so he would look like less
respectable.
Yeah, and that is like these small things. They just show this is like a sadistic, aggressive approach towards him that is really unfair towards a journalist, because he is a journalist, and we should all be very careful with what's going on here right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, these people never stop. So, if we let it happen here, it will only get worse. It's only a matter of time before, which is what they really want, is complete and utter control, government control over our media, which is not going to work out for us.
Yeah, so Rico, I also saw that Niels was also being publicly attacked on Twitter and stuff. There were also people attacking him for defending Assange. it was shocking to me. Did you notice any of this?
Yeah. I still don't know really why he was being attacked. So what happened is Nils Meltzer wrote an article going explicitly into that rape allegation situation and he explains in no uncertain terms with condoms. So there were condoms shown in Sweden that he's supposed to have ripped off during intercourse, but there was no DNA found on them. So I don't know what happens when you wear a condom. I suppose there's DNA on it if it's a true piece of evidence, but it wasn't on there. So he went into those details and much more also on how it went down in Sweden. Because you have to understand, Swedish law is particular here. If you, you're good to have unprotected intercourse. I mean, legal, consensual, but you need to ask your sexual partner if it's okay to do it with or without a condom. You have to verbally agree on that. So that's a law that I don't know if it's anywhere else in the world like that, but at least it's in Sweden. And this thing is supposed to revolve around that issue. Now, if you go to police and you claim that you were assaulted by someone who was not wearing a condom, but you thought he was, well, that fits in the definition, maybe not as rape, but in the same chapter of a crime. And obviously, I would agree, it's crime if you say you're going to use a condom, but you're secretly not using it. I mean, that is imposing something on someone, and that is. But it's still, in my book, it's not rape. Now, anyway, Niels wrote a piece about that, and he got attacked on it. Now, I'm not sure if the people that wrote a counter public letter are aware of the details of the situation with the allegations in Sweden, or are they just bitching on someone who's not viewing this thing from the victim side, right? So there's the alleged person who did something wrong, that would be Assange in this case, and then there's the victim, two women in this situation. Now, if you take the debate from the alleged victim side, then you would automatically accuse Assange. You're guilty until proven innocent, basically, rather than the other way around, the way it's supposed to be in the rule of law. So Meltzer was attacked for taking a rational approach and saying, well, this is the evidence, not really evidence, and this is the allegation, and that really didn't take place. And then he got slandered for that. And he wrote a very extremely eloquent response to that, where he says, yeah, it's good to show all sides, and thank you for your concern, and but still, this is the situation that took place. So still, there's no evidence for rape, but there is evidence for a slander campaign by a couple of countries. So
well, and that's important. The countries thing is important because the actual people that would be the victims in this, the two women, they've got a very different view of what should happen. As in, they both kind of feel like they're not pressing charges, they're not doing any of that stuff, or demanding any of it.
No, it's true.
No, and in fact, it is even like that. One lady who went to the police was only going to the police to see if she could demand like an HIV test, I think. I read this in the article by Nils Meltzer, by the way. The lady went to the police because they had like unprotected sex, and she wanted to check at the police, can I force Assange into an HIV test? Is this possible to do this? And then she went home, and the entire story was changed by the police and said like she wanted to do like a report of rape, and it was also published like that. And she was shocked by it, and she even spoke out in public against it. She wasn't in agreement with it. So that's just another weird part of it.
I mean, that's something that's extremely important to me. You know, it would be different in this case specifically because it's not a rape case. It has to do with the use of a condom. And by that, if the women that are involved are the ones that are that think that something wrong had happened there, that would be a completely different story. I'd even side with them. They have every right to be upset. But that's not the case. That's not what's going on here. And the media is specifically coming out with these stories real quick on the way by that say rape, that say, sexual assault, that say all of those things, but then they never come out a week later and say, hey, that wasn't what happened. This is what the real story is. They never have a story to refute it. And it's done on purpose.
But even if they do, by the way, Terrence, and usually like the rape charges are put on front page, and the fact that they actually say like, "Oh, we were wrong," is like on page 14, right? That is how it is. No one reads that.
Yeah.
Let's do the real story here then. So two ladies go to a police station in Sweden and ask if the person they had sex with, if they can make him take an HIV test. Now, no formal complaints were filed, but that was changed by the police, and that was released as news in tabloid media in Sweden. Now, that's against the law. So in Sweden, you're not allowed to say who was the alleged perpetrator, Julian Assange, but that was leaked anyway, and Assange read about these allegations in the press. He was in Sweden, and he saw it on the tabloids. This is that's not supposed to happen in Sweden. It happened nonetheless. He went to the police station and said, well, I'd like to make a statement. I'm reading this stuff about me. That's not really what happened. And that was all good. And then he said, well, I'm available for follow-up interviews or whatever. If you have questions, I'm here in Sweden for another couple of weeks, I think it was. But I have to leave for London for whatever, for follow-up appointments. So that was all good. And then he left to United Kingdom. And then that case was reopened in Sweden. And then an international warrant for his arrest was released. And Assange went, well, okay, I know Sweden to be extraditing people to United States outside of law. I mean, they've done it before. So I'd rather not go back to Sweden now that there's an arrest warrant. But I'm happy to interview you to answer questions through video link. And that was denied, and the Swedes wouldn't go to UK. That was denied. Now, only later, in a FOIA case, Freedom of Information Act, in Dutch that would be Wet Openbaar Bestuur, a journalist from Republica, which is a big Italian media outlet, dug into this case. And she made FOIA claims not only in UK and but also in Sweden and United States and Australia, I think, and asked what was going on here between these countries, and was denied an answer. And then she took him to court, and then she got some answers. And one of them was that the British Crown Prosecution Service, the British law, asked Sweden to reopen this case and to not let it go. So the whole reason Sweden was actually searching for Assange was asked for by British law enforcement. So that's the real story. Now, if you're an investigative journalist like Stefania, I think her name was, from Italy, that's a story to cover. And she did that. Now, that was not picked up on by all the other news outlets, including in my country, the Netherlands. And maybe this is new information for you guys as well. So what we're talking about here also in this podcast is the alleged rape. But the real story is that Great Britain has asked Sweden to reopen the case. And now we can only conclude that it's going to be for a way to have Assange extradited to the United States. This was the fear that Assange had from the start, and rightfully so.
Yeah. And but I did read in the past that Sweden used to have like an exception in their extradition law for political dissidents. But I'm not sure if that is still the case.
And also,
it used to be.
You have to. So, Niels Meltzer. I'm going to get back to your question in a second. Niels Meltzer of the United Nations wrote letters to United States, United Kingdom, Ecuador, and Sweden. Formal letters written by United Nations, by the guy in charge of whether something is torture or not. And these countries are responding back, and then they are going, no, we have a different perspective. You got it all wrong. and you have to do your homework. So that's the official response when United Nations says you're torturing someone. They just go into denial. Now, who's right and who's wrong? I mean, Nils Melzer doesn't have a legal option to sue these countries or any other legal means. All he can do is share information and ask and write letters. Now, on the political prisoners thing, if Assange would be in Sweden and he would claim he's a political refugee or whatever, they can just deny it and go, well, no, you've assaulted women, this is a rape situation, and now you're being requested to extradite to the United States for espionage stuff. You're not a political, you're just trying to get out of court. They'll just deny it, right?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. They will try him for the espionage stuff and not for political. So that is shocking. That this is like countries playing like a very dangerous game with journalists right now.
So, if I can do an anecdote here, I was in a debate in a public. God, here goes my English. In Dbali. Dbali is the name of a debate. Lost for words here. Anyway, there was a well-known reporter from the Netherlands, Maurits Martijn, who works for The Correspondent. He was one of the speakers on stage, and at some point, questions from the room were taken, and I asked him, well, why do you think United States is on Assange case still? I mean, his reporting was years old. WikiLeaks is not doing that as much now as they were doing in 2010. We all know what's out in the open, and actually that there were war crimes committed by the United States in Iraq, and all the other disclosure stuff was factual as well. So why do you think the United States is on Assange's case so badly? That was my question to that journalist, a respected journalist in the Netherlands. And he said, I don't know. Okay, you don't know. Well, ask whistleblowers then. Ask Thomas Drake. Ask John Kiriakou. Ask Alfred de Zayas, the guy I mentioned before, who also has been working as a rapporteur for United Nations. They will all go into this is bullying and this is lawfare, like warfare, but then with the law. This is countries abusing their power to get to people like Assange. And then that debate that night went into whether he's a journalist or not, whether he did proper disclosure or not, whether he should have filtered the information that he had or put it all on the web. The only thing that they discussed is whether he was an ethical journalist or a journalist at all or not.
And at a certain point, does that, I personally, I think on the show, I think most people that are viewers agree that he's a journalist, that WikiLeaks is a legitimate news source. But on the same note, if you're exposing war crimes, does it matter whether you're a journalist or not? Does it matter who exposes the war crimes? I don't care. My point is to get these war crimes out in the open and to stop them from ever happening again. I could care if it's a journalist, a cab driver, a doctor, somebody walking on their way by, a tourist. I don't care who exposes it. But you're right in that they will get on this argument on whether, well, he's a real journalist or not, and not that all of the things that they have exposed through WikiLeaks and through Julian Assange have been proven to be true, which is much more important.
I'm okay with the ethical debate on how to do responsible disclosure. That's a cool debate. But if you miss all the steps that you could have taken, the global press, everybody has not reported on war crimes, and in the Iraq war, on the reason to go there were alleged weapons of mass destruction. Well, they weren't found. But if you ask John Kiriakou, who is the CIA whistleblower that told us that we were torturing in Guantanamo Bay, if you ask that guy, he said, well, everybody in Congress knew for a fact that there were no weapons of mass destruction, so this was just a fake reason to go to that war. So there was public knowledge in those circles in Congress in the United States. So if no one in the press reports, please, everybody fails to do their proper reporting, then the guy at the end of the line that throws it all online is really just showing the failed global press. So you can't blame him for not doing it properly as a journalist. You have to blame all the other journalists that have not done this properly.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where if you were doing your job, then I wouldn't have to do this at all. If the corporate media was doing their job, then Julian Assange and WikiLeaks wouldn't be exposing this stuff, right? CNN should have been exposing it. How come it's an independent journalist, that doesn't have the connections? These guys, when it comes to the big news agencies, they're in the room in these congressional hearings. They've got all these connections with leadership of some kind, Republican and Democrat and all of that. But yet, when there's a concerted effort to trick the world and the American public into an illegal war for profit, they're the last people to know about it.
Yeah. So on that note, the Defend Media Freedom event was organized like a few days ago. It was organized by the United Kingdom government because, of course, they want to save face now, and they organized a media event saying like they want to defend the press and stuff. And it was held 12 kilometers, it's about 10 miles. Away from where Julian Assange is held right now, Belmarsh prison. They largely ignored the whole Assange case. I think there was one speaker eventually, after we all were complaining about it, one speaker actually mentioned it. We did release like all kinds of memes. Like we put it was like a giant elephant photoshopped into the room with Assange on it. Like, here's your elephant in the living room, right? I mean, you're not talking about the actual journalists who's like incarcerated right now for releasing some real stuff. Did you see all that stuff happening, Rico? The Defend Media Freedom.
No, I didn't see that event. So
it was organized by the United Kingdom government. It uses the hashtag Defend Media Freedom on Twitter. It's kind of like like the Assange supporters kind of like raided that hashtag, and they filled it up with like Defend Media Freedom. Why aren't you defending Assange? Like, Assange is incarcerated right now, and you're like literally within walking distance. I think it was. It's at 30 minutes walking distance. It was 12 kilometers away from me. Like the closest to the prison you can actually get with like having like a large place to do it.
So this is the real battle being fought right now. It's the battle of who gets the information out to the general public. And yeah, this is what we're up against. So we have the information. We have the commissioner of the special rapporteur, that's the official title. We have the special rapporteur of United Nations, the authority globally on torture, coming forward, writing letters to nation states that are colluding in criminal behavior. And what we're doing, you guys and myself, is trying to get that information out to the general public. And what we're up against is state-sponsored events that go, oh no, everything's good. We're doing this. We're doing great. 12 kilometers away from Belmarsh prison. So
the U.S. withdrew from the torture acts with the UN, with the agreements that we had not to torture people, not to work with countries that torture. We withdrew from all of those agreements.
I'm not sure. Well, there's multiple agreements. So first off, in 1948, we got the Declaration of Human Rights. Article 5 says we're not supposed to torture. I don't think they withdrew from that one. It was ratified. And then in 1984, there was the convention. The convention, I don't know the real literal term, against torture and other degrading behavior. So that was also signed and ratified by United States. I'm not sure if they withdrew from that one, but yeah, they're bending agreements that they had previously, just to legitimize waterboarding, for instance, as an interrogation technique. It's all newspeak, right?
Well, going back to the European definition, like a journalist, I don't know of any special coverage that you get from being a journalist here. It's more of a job designation. Really anyone can free speech or be a journalist. In truth.
So it's not protected job. I'm calling myself a journalist. I'm a podcaster now, so I'm a journalist. The only thing, if you need to get a press card, so if you want to go to events and you need to show that you're from the press, then you need to register and get that. But other than that,
Yeah, it goes back to that. It goes back to that sham argument that there's really some distinction when there's nothing special about a journalist written anywhere. For sure over here.
No, it's an unprotected profession. Anyone can be a journalist, and there isn't any special rule for that. But yeah, if you want to be a part of the mainstream, then you can get like a press card by the agency that accepts mainstream journalism. But that is not that doesn't make you more of a journalist than being not part of that. So I think it would actually be insulting nowadays to some journalists. So yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. Journalists think they're somebody, and they need to be looked at, and they don't get it that you're just reporting what is happening. You're really nothing special. You're just a reporter. That's it.
So someone is replying, and that person says, "I'm having nightmares that they're torturing him." Now, I would say, like, you can see what it actually does with people, that they're so shocked about this whole situation. People actually say that they're having like nightmares because of it. Like, yeah, I can't imagine that. I mean, they're so openly doing it.
Yeah, welcome to the real world. I mean, that's what's really going on.
They do it so openly.
I've gotten a lot of people that have responded with, extremely heartfelt fear for his life. And that's part of the connection that people have through social media, and the internet in general, is the kind of like response you see. They feel that they've locked up one of their friends, somebody that cared about them, which is definitely true. But it's something I hear a lot about, and yeah, it's a fear that I have. I fear for his life and his safety, and all the things that you should have for fear for a person that's wanted by the CIA, right? Like anytime that you've got a senator or a congressman that says they want to have you killed, these are the people that are in control of SEAL Team 6. Of clandestine operations all over the world that literally have people tortured and murdered. So I think it's a legitimate fear to have when you look at the people that are threatening him. The people that are threatening him are not nice people.
Well, privately they might be, but no, yeah, that's a real thing. And also, he is journalist. So what's currently happening is the one journalist reporting on war crimes in Iraq, for instance, or on all the other stuff that WikiLeaks has exposed. The one guy that does stick out, and he's been made into an example. So if you report on these things that we don't want you to report about, we're going to publicly humiliate you, defamate, and people do die from torture. I mean, look at Chelsea Manning, who's back in jail now. She's done multiple suicide attempts for the behavior that she's undergoing in prison. Everybody in their right mind, if you're being tortured year after year, you'll eventually come to the conclusion, well, I'd rather be dead than suffer this. That's human nature to break, and that's what they're doing. They're breaking you. Now, the one guy that is exposing this, well, he's been made into an example to all the other journalists out there to do the proper reporting, but don't report on the stuff that the United States doesn't want exposed.
Yeah, and there's definitely, when you look at things like that you see, things that they learned at Guantanamo Bay. So, keeping the lights on someone 24/7 for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks on end. I am personally amazed at the amount of mental fortitude that Julian Assange has. That he's been able to withstand and stay focused and continue to write and get information out and all of that while under constant mental torture from the biggest governments in the world. It's amazing that he's been able to stay strong through all of this. But some of the things that you wouldn't think of in torture until you see the paperwork and see how somebody's treated, you wouldn't notice right away. When you walk through and see him somewhere, you don't know that the lights have been on for 3 weeks at a time. You know, they play the same the same song 24 hours a day outside of your cell. Make sure that you have, something, that you can't get comfortable on to sleep on. They do all sorts of things to slowly drive you insane. That is their plan. And yeah, driving someone to suicide is definitely something that they focus on. I think that Julian Assange probably realizes that, and has to, focus his mind specifically to sit back and think, okay, they're doing this to drive me crazy, right? I can't let him do that. I imagine he probably has that conversation with himself a lot.
Yep.
So he was prepared for all of this. Already in 2010, when like the big releases were made, some of us were around back then, and we also noticed that the governments were already like attacking in digital ways. They were like doing denial of service attacks against WikiLeaks, and we set up mirrors for him. He already knew this would happen, but I don't think he imagined it to become like this bad. Because at some point in the embassy, they literally put like 24/7 camera surveillance on him, and I know that when he invited guests in, that he would usually put like a radio would put like the volume up on a radio, so they would be playing music, and then he would like whisper with his guests, so they couldn't like tap his conversation. They would like listen like they would hear like the radio. So he already knew that they were like constantly spying on him, and he prepared well. He knew what he was getting into, but at this point, at this level, I am not sure about that. This is like really going really bad right now.
Yeah, I don't think anybody could have imagined in 2019 that this is how we would treat anybody, let alone a journalist, a whistleblower. I don't think that's a term that is in argument at all in relationship to this case. Whether you think he's a journalist or not, I don't particularly care about, but no doubt he's a whistleblower. And that's something we desperately need in this world and desperately need to protect.
Now the thing, Mark, what if you are driven, if you have an intrinsic motivation to do something about the stuff that you see go wrong in the world, which Julian Assange and the people behind WikiLeaks had. They wanted to expose wrongdoings. Now, if you want to succeed there, if you wanted the general public to actually note what's going on, you need to give that a face. You need to have an organization that people can understand, like WikiLeaks. That's a nice name, also a nice logo, and you need to give it a face. People will. I've done politics, right? I was with Pirate Party, and we ran for Dutch national elections. Now, if you put up posters without a face, if you make a campaign without people, they're gonna. At the end of the day, they're gonna vote for people. So if you don't show that you're a real person that people can relate to, then they're not gonna vote for you. So this is a decision that you have to make if you want to expose stuff. Are you going to go anonymously, sit behind your Guy Fawkes mask and be safer in that respect? Or are you going to be Julian Assange with the face, with the WikiLeaks, with the logo, with the whole stuff, so that you are more accessible to a general public? And if fear for your own personal persecution plays a role in that, then that's why Assange is being tortured. So the next guy coming forward better do this anonymously and not reach the big audience, because if you go public with your name and your face and all, you're going to end up being tortured. So they're bullying and scaring all of us in staying below the radar. And I think people like Julian Assange are fully aware that this takes place, and regardless the risk for their personal security, go, well, yep, we'll have to take one for the team if it comes to that, but I am going to expose this in the best way that I can. And now there's people like Niels Meltzer that are coming forward on behalf of United Nations. Now he's probably safe. Now what we all need to do is get that face and that story out to everybody that doesn't relate to anonymous channels or what have you. So here's interviews on That's what I try to do on a Dutch platform with people like Niels from the United Nations, which is that's as accessible as you can make it, right? Here's a face, here's a good story. Well, let's have everybody see that thing and generate public awareness there.
Yeah, we already have that stigma, of course, with the anonymous, that they can simply say we're all dangerous hackers and terrorists, so they don't take us seriously then. But you're right. You're right. It needs some kind of a face that people can affiliate with. Like people actually, like, this guy is kind of like me. He's a normal guy, and he's exposing all of this stuff. I feel this person speaks for me. This person listens to me and tells the real stuff. And I think you're right, Rico, and that they are trying to scare people into no longer doing that, and that takes away a lot of power from the alternative.
Well, yeah, and that's, you know, when it comes to corporate media, that's a really big fear for theirs, because whether they like it or not, truth is extremely popular. So a small, you know, anybody that's seen as telling the truth will become more popular than any of the propaganda or fake news media networks. And that's a real problem for them. So even though they'll come out with, you know, huge $1 million advertising campaigns, once people know that they're lying and they can go somewhere to get the truth, they'll go somewhere else. That's why alternative media on the internet has become such a powerful force. One of the reasons.
Well, that's also two approaches that you can take. So there's alternative media, and we're doing that here with the Periscope and with the YouTube link later on, and on the Facebook and all of that. The other approach is what also happened after the 2010 disclosures, is that a bunch of people in the open source community started programming global leaks, which is software that can be used in responsible disclosure. And that software is now being used by people behind pub leaks, as a way for anonymous sources like Chelsea Manning back in the day to go to the general mainstream media journalists, like the official newspapers. Now those people have the audience and have the face. So here we have a official created by the community means for whistleblowers to come forward without too much of a personal risk. So that's also something we learned. We can just do this through the official channels and through the official mainstream media newspapers, as long as we provide a safer way for whistleblowers to come forward. I mean, WikiLeaks was pioneering back in the day. I mean, they designed it themselves because nothing was not too much was available at that time.
Yeah, the still unknown person, the architect building everything. There are some similar sites that we have. CryptoMe, for example, is also doing similar thing, but they're just leaking stuff, and they're not really putting like a face on it. Like like Rico said before, like they are more like unknown because they're not putting a face on it. And so there are ways now. Of course, you also have like the Tor network doing everything, but to get the big exposure, you need
a face.
Yeah, and the connections too. WikiLeaks did have the connection, but they like pretty much all betrayed them in the end. From even the Guardian, I mean.
Oh yeah, for sure. The media. Remember, I told you about that, Mark. In the last year and a half, the media has gone bipolar on Julian Assange. They were praising him, and now they're condemning him. You know.
Yeah, it depends on, you know, what they need him for, really. As sad as that sounds, you know, they used him when they needed him, not him specifically, but the information and all of that, and then when they didn't need it anymore, they turned on him.
Yeah. And he's not selling out. I mean, they're not selling out. I mean, if WikiLeaks would sell out now and would join like the media conglomerate, like the media cartel, they would leave him alone in no time. They would attach WikiLeaks to some mainstream papers, and everything would be fine again. But they're not selling out. The WikiLeaks is still standing strong against all of this, and that is something we have to stand behind too, of course. I mean, they still represent the people and don't give away anything. Look at
Well, I
Chelsea,
mean-
for example. I mean, she's not backing out. She's saying like, "No, I'm not going to testify against Assange. This is like my whole credibility, my whole morals, everything I stand for is in jeopardy." So yeah.
And I mean, luckily they are. I mean, you know, it could go the other direction, of course, but you know, there's a good chance, 50% chance here that you know, both Chelsea and Julian Assange will be pardoned when the presidential, you know, after the elections, which you know, I think the other side kind of feels like they're running against the clock. You know, once he's charged in, you know, in one of these weird federal facilities and and all of that, they can hold on to him. But until that happens, they can't. Once he's pardoned, he's pardoned.
Well, Chelsea Manning was pardoned.
Yeah. Now she's in double jeopardy. You know, she was in military court. She was she was pardoned for that, and then civilian court charges her with this, or doesn't charge her, but is questioning her about the same thing that she's already done time for. You know,
which is supposed to be illegal.
It is illegal, actually. Double jeopardy, I thought was illegal. You know.
Yeah, those laws don't apply when you're telling on Big Brother.
Should be.
Yeah, I agree 100%. No one is above the law, but there it is.
Well, I think there's two things going on with Chelsea Manning. And one is if she goes to testify in front of the grand jury, and she chooses different words or whatever she chooses, it doesn't matter what she does. She has to be using words, has to be verbal in testifying. Then there will always be things that are said differently from that case in front of the military court years earlier. So there will always, if you go look for it, there will always be reason to say, "Oh, that's perjury," or "Meinheid." What's the word? That's lying in court.
Yeah.
So you would be get arrested, not on a double jeopardy thing, but on lying to court, and that might be a reason for her to end up in jail. So
and I mean, that's the deal. They're just looking for any way to punish her. I mean, they'll make up rules. If they have to go back, when it comes to Julian Assange, if they have to go back 100 years to find a law to charge you with, they will. You know, the laws, the Espionage Act that he's being charged with is 100 years old.
Literally.
Yeah, 1915.
Yep.
1915,
Yep.
over 100 years old. I mean, name another thing around you that's 100 years old.
And there's only been so many people that have been charged with the Espionage Act. It's not like a large list of people.
Well, and it doesn't even fit, you know, anything that he did, like, at all, which is weird, too. You know, they're trying to treat him like he's some sort of, you know, I don't know, government spy for a non-existent government.
Yeah, they're making it up. Well, that's I like to look at the positive side of things. So, and I'm naive in that. But if you on the positive side, if they're coming down so hard without any evidence whatsoever on Chelsea Manning and Julian Assange, they must be very scared of the stuff coming. I mean, if they have to make an example out of these people, that is so bad, trying to scare whatever's coming with new information and new whistleblowers and new stuff. Well, then we're almost there. Maybe. I mean, they are pretty scared, apparently.
Yeah, I think even past scared. I think what I see is desperate.
Yeah.
You know, your enemies will never fight harder than at their very last, right? And I think that's exactly what we're seeing here. They're desperate to shut this down before it's all the way out of their control, which I would argue it is. They never really had control over the internet and information to begin with, but they are coming to the end of that time. And I think that the way that they're acting seems scared but desperate. If they don't fix this now, they're not going to get a chance to. And I think that it's past where they really can, which is why this seems so out of place. If this was 40 years ago, you know, it wouldn't seem so crazy. If this was the middle of the Cold War, it wouldn't seem so crazy. It's 2019, right? We are already past all of this, which is, you know, definitely what you see when you look at the Assange case specifically.
But yet again, we're with a president that's bringing us back into the dark ages politically. You know.
Well, what you are that is true, Tyler. But what you are noticing is that actually the public opinion is shifting. Like at first, it was all about the whole weird rape story and all of the discrediting stuff. But now the public opinion is actually shifting. You see more and more support for Assange. It becomes popular to support journalists and whistleblowers. It becomes even. I saw the some presidential candidates actually jumping on it, like Tulsi Gabbard and stuff. They actually know that it becomes popular among the population that to support these people. So there is a shift going on, and that is what makes them even more and more scared. They are doing everything now to discredit the whole thing and to actually to stop this, but it is not working for them anymore. The more attention they are giving to it, the more people are responding to the attention they're giving to it, and the more people are waking up to it. And that is that really shows how the alternative media, especially on the internet, is actually gaining some ground against the old corporate media.
And just there was a time when shutting you down, where you couldn't make speeches, putting you in prison or whatever, stopped your ideas. It was really hard unless you wrote a book or something like that. It couldn't, it didn't get out. But in today's age, you can say something one time in a live stream, they lock you up, and that's shared 1 billion times while you're locked up. Your ideas continue to be shared. The things that you've done continue to be shared, and people still have access to those things. And I think that has kind of changed the dynamic than what you saw in these same kind of, authoritarian governments of the 50s. I think were the last time that we were seeing this kind of government.
Yep. Yeah, right around the 50s. You're exactly right.
But before they could lock you up, you were a dissident that was giving good speeches. They locked you up, and that was it. And that's not the case anymore. His quotes get shared millions of times a day. And he has nothing to do with that. Right. And they get shared 1 million times after that. And the people that see it say, oh, yeah, I have a friend that's into that, that's always posting the Julian Assange crap. Why is he in jail? Right. And your average person starts thinking that way. And that's something that they don't have control over. Or losing more and more control over.
I think the biggest problem people have is getting over the disbelief that something like all this is possible. They look at a government as something that, to look up to and is taking care of you rather than the guy that's really fucking you around.
Yeah, I don't know. What do they need? Like, for those people, for the sheep, like, what evidence do you need? Like, there's the videos, there's the paperwork, the declassified stuff, the weird government programs, the poisoning of the water, the lobbyists. Like, geez, what do you need?
That's where we fail in the connection with the general public, because rather than trying to assess why we're not getting our message across, we double down. We give them more. Like, what do you need? We'll expose more. We'll give you more. But the reason that they're not with you in that story and understanding what's going on is because it's too uncomfortable. And my personal, from a personal account. So, pedophilia, a child molestation, buying children. That's something that's outside of my comfort zone. So you hear those stories as well. I go, well, I don't know.
Same here.
That's not my story. I'm not comfortable with that. Until I ran into Roelie Post. Roelie Post is a lady who's worked for European Commission for European Union. Her job was to assist Romania back in the day to become member state of European Union. Now, in Romania, children were up for adoption. You could buy a kid from Romania. If you had between $20,000 and $40,000, you would get a child. And she changed all that and said, well, kids really have to be raised in their own country. And that's better for the children, even if there's no money. It's better than sending them to a rich people abroad. So from within the European Commission, she changed that policy of adaptation of children, and she was met with a lobby industry, bankers, that said, no, we need the old way of doing things. So she's now a whistleblower, lost her job, lost her pension, and is in hiding in the Netherlands. And then there was encouraging messages to her just in front of the elections. Now elections for European Parliament are done, and the bullying is back. So here's a story, right, about buying children from Romania. That's outside of my comfort zone. I didn't want to touch that story until you talked to a lady like Roelie Post, and I interviewed her as well. And now I'm okay with talking about the story. And I go, I didn't want to know about buying children on the internet. That's outside of my comfort zone. That's probably valid for more people. More people don't want that story. So how can we break that story down to make it accessible for the general public? Or maybe take a smaller story first to train them up a bit about the real stuff going on out there, rather than going into you can buy organs as well. I mean, if you need a new kidney, just buy a kid. You can double down on a story like that, but you'll just lose connection to the audience. Yeah,
I definitely agree. I love that perspective for sure. I definitely agree that, we do get into people get overwhelmed, or it is outside of, they like that stability in their lives. Everything is okay. The government's in control. The lights are going to stay on. It's all good, right? And why would, the people that I've been raised from a child to respect and love and follow aren't lying to me. Those are hard concepts to wake up to. And, a lot of people do have like a growing pains, place from when they're, from when they didn't really know anything to when you kind of get to where we're a journalist and you've been exposed to all sorts of craziness. There's a growing period. If you were exposed to those kind of things, in the very beginning, you may have walked away completely like y'all are crazy. Right. So I do understand that. I definitely do agree with that. But I mean, at a certain point, it can't become any more obvious. Like, when people say painfully obvious, I feel it's painfully obvious. Like, you almost have to not, you have to not want to see it.
And there's the thing, Terrence, it is actually obvious, but people actually do need to be confronted with it, and they're not getting it from their mainstream press. Simple reason that if they are actually confronted by it and they even type like one search on like DuckDuckGo, I'm not going to even mention Google, but if they type like one search on it, they will find enough information that will like really shock them. So the mainstream is like deliberately not mentioning any of this because they actually know that it is so obvious what is going on that there are going to be so many people going to resist against this if they are aware of it, and so they are kept constantly in line with weird entertainment and other stuff. So.
Yeah, meaningless media. I always say it's not fake media that's the problem. Fake media, once a story is known it's fake, it's checked off as fake, and people ignore it. They'll put the big old fake stamp on top of it. But manufactured media is a huge problem. That's what we're fighting all the time. Is manufactured media. It's the same story over, through all of the, they have the same narrative. And you can only, argue or talk about anything that's in that little tiny box.
Yeah, so they're not shutting up about that. They're not like being silent. They are actually feeding unrelated information or disinformation, filling up the minds of people with other stuff. Like, they're not being silent. They're just feeding you.
Well, no, because I mean,
all day.
People are trained. That's where you go for your news. It's the news is in the name of the company, right? CNN, it's the news, right? Fox News, it's the news. So people, gravitate to the news and don't realize that it's just manufactured stories or stories that they'll put together to keep you from even noticing something else that's going on.
Yeah, I think like. Even in the commercials, right? There's like most of us can actually like repeat the exact songs or the exact tunes from like 5 or 10 different commercials like that actually show on TV, and they're showing them globally, right? But we can't. Well, most of us can't repeat the things Julian Assange said or that Julian Assange released. Some don't even know the name, but they do know like the strange tunes from commercials. This is how bad it is.
Yeah.
Well, I actually go a little further. I mean, it's going to hurt some people's feelings, but I think the biggest problem is cowardice. If people if they had to admit that there was a problem, then the next step, if you have any integrity at all, is to do something about it. But if you're a coward, you don't want to know there is a problem because you don't want to do anything about it. You're not interested in that, and that is the problem.
Yeah, I think he's right. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. You know, with all of these, you know, after you move past the first step and your eyes are open, well, then you got to do something, right? Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. You know, and once you're exposed to even a little bit of it, it does put that responsibility on you as a human being. You know it to be true as a human being that you're supposed to stand up to oppression, to tyranny, right? And that it requires you to do that once you do know about it.
Hey, on that note, Rico, I've got maybe a bit unrelated question for you, but it's kind of related too. That is the fact. I know you have been with the Pirate Party for a while, and how is does the and I know Ray very well too. He sometimes comes on our show, and I know he's always busy with Assange case too. And but how does the Pirate Party stand into all of this? Like, are we lobbying together for more protections for journalists and whistleblowers on a European scale? Because it's active in a lot of countries right now.
Well, okay, so let's talk Pirate Party a bit. I was not politically active at all until 2013, and then Snowden came forward, and that didn't change anything for me, because I just thought, oh, cool guy. You see there's information out, and he's actually exposed. Here's a hero. So that I cheered up because of that. But then I saw the response from my government and all the other governments to the Snowden revelation, and go, oh God, my country's in on suppressing this. And then that plane was forced to land, the plane of the president of Colombia, I think it was, in South America.
Ecuador.
In Zurich. They tried to land in Zurich.
Yeah. But it was forced to land and forcibly searched if Snowden was on board. And Portugal and Spain and France closed their airspace. So the European Union was in on trying to find a whistleblower who was a hero. Now that is what made me get off my proverbial couch and do something about it. And there was this debate evening thing in Holland, and I went there, and someone was speaking there on behalf of Pirate Party. And I went, you know what? Maybe I should be politically active, do something about it, right? And it wasn't cowardice that didn't make me do anything. And I agree with what was said a moment before about cowardice. It was just, I was just lazy or ignorant or whatever. But it took a little bit of that red pill to get out of my house and then connect to Pirate Party. And I thought, well, yeah, let's join them. They're the only ones that actually make a point of whistleblower protection. And they're the only ones that go, freedom of information, transparency. That's the antidote against these kinds of government policies that we're discussing here. So yeah, let's see if we can help pirates achieve something. And to this day, I feel the only political entity that is actually has the right program and the right things, in politics, is Pirate Party. Having said that, I don't know if we're going to get change through politics. I mean, I've seen this up close, and democratically elected representatives. Well, they're representatives. They're representing us. So unless we as a global society change stuff, only then will those representatives change stuff. So the people in The Hague, where the Dutch government is, they'll just follow the citizens in the Netherlands. So if we want to change stuff, we have to change stuff outside of The Hague, and then it'll follow that. So that's my newer assessment to the effectiveness of politics. But still, we need a multi-layer approach. We need to do it through politics as well. Pirate Party that has a program for that. I did interviews with all frontrunners of European Union the last election round, all pirate frontrunners. So I talked to the people from Czech Republic who are now in European Parliament, and to Patrick Breyer from Germany, and France, and Italy, and Norway. And you'll see different levels of matureness or of professionalism. And some of the pirate parties have their stuff in order, and they're doing, and they get elected. Now, I'm sorry to say, in Holland, we're not there, and haven't been for years. So we're not really making any kind of a substantial impression on the people voting for us.
No, I know a bit about it. I'm blaming the clash between like the activist arm and the political arm, but that's my personal.
Well, I mean, I think that he's right when he says that we need a multi-pronged approach, and I think that's important. So, I mean, the clash that happens between the politicians and the activists, this is a clash that doesn't necessarily... That doesn't necessarily have to be there, right? Activists and politicians are against each other because, well, it's more the establishment versus the act. Kind of what you were saying before when you first came in to this idea was that, you know, you were lazy, and what you seem to be describing was being uninspired. And I think that's what happens a lot of times to people that go to the activist side, is that they're uninspired by their government officials. But we got to hit them with everything. We got to hit them with legislation. We got to put in politicians that support us. We got to organize and vote. We got to protest. We got to hit them with everything to make sure that these authoritarian acts and policies don't happen. That's part of the game.
In this case, I was like more. Go ahead, Alamo. Sorry.
No, what I was seeing, what I thought I saw last, like the European elections, was you got more. Even if you only had about a third of the representatives that were even up for a vote this time, so even if you got a third to half of the people in there, you still have such a small percentage that you still can't even now do much with that lower representation.
Yeah, like we saw it with the whole protests against ACTA too. That's what I meant really with the clash between activists and politicians. Not so much the activists versus the establishment, but you have at one side you have the activists who really they stand for something and they don't want to give anything away from that. They have their opinions and they're set on it. They want to achieve this and this. But then you have the political side, and they want to make they're prepared to make some form of compromise to get as much from the deal as possible, give away something of the deal, and that's where you clash also inside of your own political party. And to use the Pirate Party as an example, I personally support the Pirate Party, but that's personal. But I did notice this inside the pirate movement, and we saw this especially with the whole Stop ACTA 2 thing, where some pirates did not want to work with Anonymous because some politicians were saying like, no, Anonymous is all terrorists. This is actually bad for us. But other pirates were like very eager to work with Anonymous. They said like, yeah, we know you guys have like millions and millions of people around the world, and you can actually give us exposure. And we are on the same side with fighting against internet censorship and all these things. So that's where I noticed a little clash. But
well, I think we're seeing that clash inside of the Democratic Party, with the like progressives progressives or Justice Democrats or whatever you want to call it, versus the corporate Democrats, centralist Democrats, neoliberal Democrats, where you've got people that are one side that's willing to negotiate, and one side that's not willing to negotiate anything on certain issues. And I'm not sure if there's certain issues that we can negotiate on, wars for profit. I don't know if we can find a happy middle ground for that. that. Prisons for profit is another one. I don't know if we can find. You can only put a couple million people in prison for profit. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. But we see that same kind of division on the inside of our own party right now.
Because of course you have an activist arm. Like in America, you have like a president now, and many people don't agree with what this president is doing. So you have a lot of grassroots activists who actually choose like an alternative to that. And I regret they have to be with the other big party, the Democrats, who are like so big too that they actually overshadow other initiatives. But of course, then they clash with the established politicians inside these parties, and that's where you always get into fights. Because I see with some candidates, like they have got a lot of Look at Bernie Sanders; he's got a lot of grassroots support.
Yep.
But he will clash with the not so much grassroots people.
Oh yeah, the establishment Democrats hate him. I mean, the establishment Democrats hate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like in the worst way. I'm pretty sure, like Nancy Pelosi sees that she's going to take her spot eventually here very soon. But and it's a clear division between the old, the old corporate Democrats and the new Justice Democrats, the progressive Democrat. But it's put a real rift inside of our party because there's such a difference between the two ideas. Even though they're both named Democrat, there's a huge difference between the two. Yeah, ideology-wise, and I would see it as being, the kind of, the politicians versus the activist leaders.
It is strange. Me and Rico are both like from Europe, but like Rico also says, like it's like only the pirates stand for Assange and for whistleblowers, and I saw a group which is the Team 25 from Yanis Varoufakis, the Greek former financial minister, and a small group in Scandinavia, the Scandinavian Greens. Also stand for him, but for the rest, it's like pretty much only the Pirate Party. What I think is weird is that not more political parties are actually jumping on this whole thing. Like even if it's opportunism.
Well, and I mean the thing is, like every single one of those parties and every single one of those politicians at one time or another has posted or referenced one of Julian Assange or WikiLeaks stories. At least once.
Yeah.
You have to recognize. So if the entire political landscape is not defending whistleblowers as a first and foremost point of the agenda, then then they probably have something to hide, don't they? Or to protect.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So that's one of the. I talked to Naomi Colvin, whistleblower advocate, and she was in Strasbourg the week that the European Whistleblower Protection Directive was adopted, and there was a couple of days, 1 or 2 days after Assange was taken from the Ecuadorian embassy, and I interviewed her, and I wasn't aware of the details of that European Whistleblower Protection Directive. I thought, that's a cool thing. Finally, we're going to get some stuff done here. European Parliament is working after all. They're doing whistleblower protection. No, they're not. This is a very watered down, something that sounds cool. Whistleblower Protection Directive, that sounds cool. But it isn't. It's not applicable. It doesn't apply to the European Union itself, to Brussels itself. So if you're whistleblowing against European Union, there is no whistleblower protection for that. They excluded that from it. The only thing that it applies to is if you blow the whistle on a certain law that is derived from a European directive. And not all the other stuff. So there is no real new whistleblower protection in my book. So I'm doing a bit of a black and white discussion here. But they watered it down. There is no real whistleblower. And then you have a whistleblower from European Union, Roelie Post, the lady I mentioned earlier, and she's being bullied and hunted down by the office of Frans Timmermans, who was running to be to succeed Juncker.
So, yeah.
Well, and that was similar to when with Edward Snowden and Obama. Obama came out and said, "Oh, he could have came forward with all of these, because of the whistleblower protections that we have." But his office is specifically not covered by the whistleblower protection. So I mean, it was a complete lie. Like you weren't helping anyone at all.
Exactly. Now, here's the interesting part, because you were going on about the Democratic Party, the current state of the Democratic Party in the United States. Now, I was cheering Obama on for when he was elected first time, and many people did. I feel the same enthusiasm for one of the candidates, and it was mentioned a moment ago, Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, and she's being very outspoken about protection for whistleblowers or stopping the regime change policy of the United States. But who's to tell me that I can trust this candidate where the other ones I feel betrayed by? So why is this one going to be different? Same for Bernie Sanders. I mean, he was cheated out of the Democratic Convention by Clinton, and then he starts supporting Clinton. Now, if I'm going to run for office and my direct colleague is going to defraud me and cheat me out of winning an election, I don't know if I'm going to support that person after that. So what do you leave of the credibility of Sanders?
Yeah, so mistakes were made.
Here it comes.
Some big mistakes were made. Yeah, I don't know. It's something I think he's going to have to, especially when it gets closer and closer to the debates. I think he needs to have a good answer to the American people. And I worked for the Obama campaign and the re-election campaign. I worked for the Bernie campaign all the way up until he supported Clinton. And I've never been given a good answer on why he would support one of the most corrupt people on the planet. That being said, with any politician, right? So, I mean, when it comes to Bernie and Tulsi, I do trust them like 90%. They're still politicians. You can't trust politicians. It's not that, I support them. I'd say, yeah, 90%. I think they're on the level, which is more than I support any other politician that I've came in contact. AOC as well. Maybe she'd get a 90, 95. But yeah, they're still politicians. You can only trust them so much. Ego gets to everybody. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. All of those things worry me.
And they're not even always bad people, but they make compromises along the way, right, to get other stuff done, and then they compromise on other stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, where I firmly believe that the people would support you so much more if you stood 100% on what you stand for. Yeah, so I mean that's something that I want to see in all of our leaders. But I think people elected you specifically for certain issues, and you owe it to them to stand strong on those issues.
Yeah, that's the idea of how government's supposed to work. The problem is these people they become like the media darling rather than, hey, you're just a representative for these ideals. They totally forget what they're there for. I mean, it happens. I get pissed off at Republicans. I'm more on the other side, but I mean, they turn just as fast as anybody.
Yeah, I do. I think either, and I don't think that's like a right or left political issue. I think everybody that votes for their leadership expects them to stand and fight for the things that they're put into office to do. And I mean, in this environment, you're pretty much getting put into office for very specific issues, and I don't think people are as, I don't know, you don't respect people for not doing it anymore. Joe Biden's a good example of that, where it's like, look, in your 40 years in office, what did you stand and fight for? Like that you would, nah, man, I don't care. I don't give a fuck what the reason is, right? No more wars. If everybody in this room votes for the war, then y'all aren't going to mind I vote against it, right? So, you know what I mean? Like that kind of name the thing that you stood in Congress and were unbending, right? That turned out to be for the people. and you're hard up to find a politician that can check that off, right? They can give you a thing, something that they achieved like that isn't extremely negative. So like, yeah, I guess the banking bailouts, the tax fucking bailouts, or the tax scam, the things that you do name are always horrible. The war in Iraq, those kind of things, just extreme fuck ups. Very rarely are they things that are positive. Some Social Security, Medicare, things like that, where you can really check off as being something good for the people.
Hey, so I want to remind our audience that we have Rico Brouwer in here. He did a great interview with the United Nations specialist on torture, and that is going to be released tomorrow. And we will spread it, of course, on social media. And so I was lucky enough to already see this interview, and I can say this is really shocking, and a lot of information is going to be given there. So I'm not sure at what time you will air it, Rico, but
we'll definitely try to promote it as much as we can out, and kind of get, if our followers will tell you when we're posting it. And then, if you guys can share it out too, because it's something that's extremely important. We need to all, I don't care what side of the game you're on, we need to all stand against torture, right? At this point, right, not only is it against, basic human decency, but we also know it doesn't work. So there's no reason for it. It's not like they can tell us, hey, we tortured the fuck out of people and got all sorts of great information and saved the world. That never happened. You just hurt a bunch of people and got zero information from it. So, I think as a planet, we need to walk away from torture. And even if you call it enhanced interrogation, we may have to be so very, 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 very specific and write our legislation so that it doesn't have loopholes to where you can stand on one foot and turn around backwards, on some place in the planet, and that allows you to torture people, right? We have to make sure that there's no out for that. It's something, oh, well, we don't torture as long as it's, in America, but if it's in Cuba, we can pull your fingernails out. That doesn't make any sense.
So at what time were you planning to release this interview?
Okay. So I do two things. I make podcasts myself for the podcast channel. That's when we just started. And also as a how do you call it? I'm a journalist. I call myself a journalist, and I make interviews for a different channel. It's called Café Weltsmets. Now, I just find guests and have a nice conversation there that lasts for, 40, 45 minutes. I invited Niels Meltzer last Wednesday. Now, what we agreed upon is to release this thing on a Friday morning in Netherlands time, Amsterdam time. So that's within 4 or 5 hours from now. And you'll see tweets appear on my Twitter handle, Rico Brouwer. You'll see them appear on the one we're here using right now for this Periscope, your Mark Lubbers. And yeah, pick up on those, please, and share this stuff out, because that's what we have going for ourselves, information. And about that torture point that you just made. So let's look at the weapons of mass destruction in narrative in Iraq. And we know, the people here talking, the people listening, they're aware that there were no weapons of mass destruction. It was a fake argument to start a war for whatever reason. Now, you have the United States going, there might have been weapons of mass destruction. And then you have, let's say, WikiLeaks or Assange going, well, no, it wasn't. Now, if you associate Assange with rape, with smearing feces on the wall, and all the other defamation stuff, then there were no weapons of mass destruction story gets defamed with it. So that's the reason for torture a person and slander him as well, to discredit true information. Now, what we need to put in place of that is promote real information, like the interview that I made with the rapporteur of the United Nations, Niels Meltzer. He's got the true story out. He's saying it in a very accessible, friendly way. So, let's try to share that with the entire world, shall we?
Yeah, I noticed too that he's also like a great speaker. He's not only a great writer, but also a very clear speaker, and he knows exactly what he's saying, and that makes it easy for people to listen to and to actually accept this information. And you're right, Rico, because it matters right now. I mean, if we don't defend Assange and don't fix what is going on here right now, then we are all going to be next. We consider ourselves to be journalists and whistleblowers. And
Well, the free sharing of information, which is what this is all this is all about, and who controls that information. They're under the impression, control the media, control the people. And, we're under the impression, free social media, you free the people. And that has to do with the open sharing of information to keep these things like, the false narrative of weapons of mass destruction. If you would go back, every single voice that spoke out against the war, they did everything they possibly could to smash it. And some of that had to do with social media still being in its infancy, is compared to what you saw happen, with the last couple of drums towards war with, Iran and Korea and Syria and all of that. It's caught no traction because people are talking about it on social media. Right? News stories are getting out. You find out, oh, the guy that's standing in front of me is a notorious war criminal that constantly lies about war. Okay, I get it. Yeah, then I'm totally not gonna buy that information. But there was a time where that wasn't accessible to anybody. With Iran specifically, when you look at William Barr coming out and trying to spin that we're under immediate threat and attack from Iran. And then immediately on social media, you see all the videos of him lying, of him joking about, hey, yeah, when we worked for the FBI, we lied and steal and jolt and do everything you have to do to get the mission, of course. Right? That's to make money, right? Those were his words. And when you see that on social media, it undermines the entire story. And you see that a lot now when you have these kind of fake narratives that the media come out, even to the people that are listening to our show now. Right, they know more about Julian Assange's case and what people are talking about involved in his case, and the rape allegation that has to do with the condom. They've got all that information that was never given to them by the corporate media, not once. And I mean, these are important parts of the case, important parts of the story, important parts of being a journalist and telling people that narrative.
Well, and we just repeat the information until they all know it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's our power. We have the masses, and we repeat it. Like, we don't have the big outlets, but we do have the masses, and we have a strong grassroots support, and these people are always with us, and they repeat it. Like, we are, like, even on places like Twitter, even if we do that shadow ban, we get many shares of posts about this, and sometimes I'm thinking like mainstream media hypnotizes people, repeat stuff, like the example I gave with the whole commercials and people remembering all these little tunes, that we also have to repeat things until, like, we have to actually reprogram them in some way by repeating the facts to them and confronting them every time, day in, day out, with the actual facts.
Well, and I think that, to be honest, it's a lot easier. Like, truth spreads like wildfire. I do think that it's easier to tell the truth and do real journalism than it is to try to hide things and manipulate people. They spend billions to manipulate people, and that's done, undone in 1 4-hour, live stream. Thousands of people are now woke up. That now will wake up another 1,000 people. Right, the billions that they spend aren't doing anything to keep people from uniting and waking up and wanting more information. So it's always real inspiring to me, but it seems, in my mind, it's a lot easier to do what we're doing than it is to do what they're doing. It takes an army of people to pull that off, to tell a lie, to make that whole system work, to pull all the strings, to, you know, make it to make sure that everybody's marching to the same tune, to work that kind of corruption is extremely hard and time consuming. And it's pretty easy to tell the truth.
And this is why I am convinced that we will actually win in the end, because we are doing this for free. We don't have ads. We don't even accept donations. We just say like donate to WikiLeaks or whatever. We don't need it. Like we're doing this for free. We cannot be stopped by these people. We have like unlimited resources in such a way that we don't need anything. And we are all activists who are like eager every day again to actually fight against this. So I have that's why I'm always hopeful that I see the people around me too. There are more and more people saying like, we support all this stuff, we support this truth, and we want to defend whistleblowers. You know, this, even if they don't know how, these people are actually willing, and that's why I always have like a good hope in this.
Yeah, I think all of us are pretty optimistic in the fight. You know, it like I said, we had said before. You know, I do feel like there's some desperation on our enemy's side. You know, none of the things that they're working, you know, that they're trying have worked. In fact, when it comes to Julian Assange, with the war crimes specifically, and some of the stuff with the helicopter attacks and all of that, it's actually gotten more coverage because they've tried to cover it up. You know, people immediately go and like, well, what did he post that was so terrible? And then they go and look up the war crimes, and it was someone that really wasn't looking to go down any rabbit hole or isn't any activist or any of that. Just wanted to know what all the hype's about, and they got some real truth out of it, and didn't even have to look far for it. And that's super inspiring to me.
Yeah, and I am actually happy with that there are people like Rico who have their own podcasts and stuff, and who are actually very gentle intellectuals. Like I'm going to mention people like Alex Jones and stuff who got censored. They are always rude on the air, and there are easy to find excuses to get them off the internet. But with people like Rico, and I hope more people will start similar podcasts, and there is not a possible way that they can actually ever legally censor people like that. I just don't see it. There can't be found an excuse. There is no racism, no weird talk like with Alex Jones and stuff. So I've got good hope with that too, because there are so many people listening to podcasts like that, and I think there is like a real revolution going on with such things, and this is our way right now.
Well, it's intentional for me. So the reason I'm doing a podcast with a candle as a logo, I mean, how cuddly do you want it, right? It's very accessible, and all the friendly language and no hard language and all the stuff that you mentioned. So one of the reasons for that is it's accessible, so people will easier digest the actual news that's in there, because I'm talking to Thomas Drake and I'm talking to John Kiriakou, NSA and CIA whistleblowers. But if you deliver the message in a friendly way, well, then a broader audience might get that. So that's an intentional part. The other reason why I'm doing this is also cowardice. I would consider, well, it's a business model for him as well. But Alex Jones doing these things he did or is doing his way. Well, that's not what I'm cut out for. And we mentioned it earlier. We all have to do our part in exposing stuff that's going wrong. Well, I'll do the coward part of that with my Kendall thingy in the podcast. But make no mistake, I will be censored away. What do you? So there's going to be a copyright claim for whatever reason if the information that I'm sharing it becomes too big. I mean, they're blaming Julian Assange for a rape case. And the Crown, I don't know the abbreviation, but the law system in the United Kingdom asked Sweden to reopen a rape case, which isn't a rape case. So if you're,
I think it was the Crown Prosecution Service.
Thank you, Crown Prosecution Service. So if they can manage this to Assange, who's gotten some attention, they'll get small podcasts like mine out of the air. You know what they can't get off the air? And that's what Nils Meltzer says in the interview. you can come down on one WikiLeaks, you can come down on one Julian Assange, but once there's 10,000 of those little outlets,
Exactly.
that's the whole thing. So I'm just one of those 10,000 with my little candle thingy, and they can turn it, get it off the air. Well, good luck with that if there's another 9,000 out there.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, that really is, as an activist, that is what it's all about, right? Is that if we all work together, it just gets so loud that they can't. You can name off 1,000 different stories that they have tried to crush, that are all our favorite stories at one time, that they've tried to crush and haven't been able to because it's not in their hands. The people shared it. The people want to know about it. And I love that mindset and that thought of just, 10,000, live streamers, 10,000 journalists. If you want to know what's going on in this part of the world right now, there's somebody, boom, there. This is what's going on. This is what the people on the street think. I love that.
Of course they tried to censor us many times. I mean, this is the reason why
I don't think there is there a platform that hasn't censored us? I mean, I think we broke a record. Like, we did one show on a certain network and we're boom censored. One.
Yeah, it was especially Facebook and YouTube doing everything they could to mess with us. I mean, at some point, like our early episodes that get like between like 15,000 and 40,000 unique viewers easily. Like that one episode, Tyler was being robbed on air. They had like 30,000 unique viewers, and then Facebook started to shadow ban us, right? And suddenly we would have it would say like we have 5 viewers at the same time, and there were like 20 people replying about the episode below it. Like, it was impossible.
That?
They were like,
there's more people replying than there is watching.
I knew why they were doing it, because Facebook had the whole live map thing, and the more viewers you have on your live stream, the bigger your circle gets on the map, and the bigger, so you get a lot more people going to your live stream because you become like a huge dot on the map. We actually abused that long ago with the whole situation, like in Yemen and stuff, and with the node. That we would set our location to these places, and we would actually talk about these places, of course, but we would get a lot more viewers on the map because of the map. So, they really messed with us bad, and YouTube too. They took away our streaming without a reason. We didn't even have a strike. We don't even have a strike right now, and we're unable to stream directly to YouTube. Like, you have 0 strikes.
Yeah, we have to be one of the most censored news networks on social media, for sure. I'm absolutely hated. Facebook, I just stay in Facebook prison, Facebook jail. Like, there's been days where we've literally, like, I'm out of Facebook jail, make 1, 2 posts, and I'm back in Facebook jail right away. Well, one post of Bill Clinton on the rape plane, and I'm censored. How does that work?
Yeah, they just keep, amping up their level. It's a never-ending. Their terms of service are like the Constitution. In their minds, it's very flexible. They just, by the end of it all, they just do whatever the hell they want.
Exactly.
Yeah, with no real explanation. Just you're censored for you can't post anything for a week. No reasonings, no information on what their problem is.
No, you're a slave and you need to be treated like shit. That's the deal.
I'm not down. I'm not down with that paradigm, to be honest.
Well, I mean, but that's the way they look at you, though. It's like they don't care what you say or what you think or what the law is or Constitution. No, it's just this bogus shit that we're a company and we can do whatever we want.
You remember when they told us to delete that video because we explained the algorithm on one of the shows? They really don't want any of their internal secrets being broadcasted out on anything on Facebook.
Well, maybe they should quit leaking so much information online, or Like maybe they should become better programmers, so I mean, it's not like most of the stuff that we know and that we've exposed about Facebook, either so exposed about social media, either A, they were lying and telling us they weren't doing something and they were, or B, they had a huge security issue that they were just ignoring and acting like they didn't know about. So I mean, they could fix either of those problems, right? You could not be gutless scumbag companies. That would help. But you could not have huge security leaks or come out and constantly lie to us. Those are two avenues to take. I know that over the Twitter was down earlier today.
That's a controversy about this story about who did it.
Well, that's the deal. So I mean, nobody's taken like actual credit for it.
Actually, somebody did, but we're not sure if they actually did it.
Yeah. So that's what I'm not gonna get. I'm not. Yeah.
During the Twitter outage.
Nobody's taken official credit for it, and I'm not sure the people that were mentioned as possibly pulling it off are the people that did it. I'm just that's my own personal opinion, I guess. They could be, but I don't think they are.
Yeah, I mean the guys who took credibility for it are about as credible as a clown.
We've had several huge blackouts for Facebook, Twitter, Google over the last couple of days, and all of them are giving us these weak, we were doing a quick update that didn't work right, excuse. So I mean, is this all one update or what? Quit using it.
To be fair,
everything that you plug Skynet into obviously seems to go evil. So quit doing it.
To be fair, this Twitter outage did look more than as a denial of service attack than the whole Facebook outage.
It really did.
So I mean, we got negative users, right? I had -1. You had -21, something stupid.
Well, that might be a programming error due to a database not being accessed, but I don't know. The guys that are claiming that are doing it are big DDoSers on the internet, so we're not sure.
I'm not calling anybody out. I just it's that. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to be the one to let that loose. So. Yeah.
No, I'm going to say it is probably government related, but that's just my assumption. That the Twitter at this point is so large and such a network that is so capable of mitigating DDoS attacks that that mostly comes from government related things or insiders, corporate.
Well, I mean, I didn't know if it had. There was a couple of things that was going on. Almost a fist fight with some journalists in the Rose Garden. So, I mean, there was some things that it was weird that the Twitter went down, as well as the storms that I guess, we're ignoring. We're going to ignore Louisiana or New Orleans being underwater. I guess that's just, nobody's even going to, that's what I'm talking about when we talk about the corporate news not covering shit. New Orleans is under fucking water right now. People are swimming down the street. Yeah, but not talking about it in the way, the urgency that New Orleans being underwater should be getting.
What was that?
Yeah.
What was that? Terrence?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just with the flooding and the storm coming in, New Orleans so flooded out, the city is literally underwater. It's gone. The government's been told to pull back to Baton Rouge.
Well, it's sinking in that area. I mean, it has been for a long time. I don't know why they keep trying to build it up, man. You talk about fighting the tide.
Yeah, they definitely, all sorts of decisions could have been made ahead of time that they just don't seem to care. It's not like, it's not like we've got, the most brilliant engineers on the planet and you guys can't figure out how to deal with, with anything going on with New Orleans.
Hey,
right? Venice doesn't sit. Venice seems to have been able to figure it out, right? If like we can't seem to figure anything out. Venice is also sinking underwater, but that has to do with it rising so quickly.
hey guys, I mean to hate to get you guys off topic, but our guest he's back.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a simple question, but maybe with a complicated answer. But because we're dealing now with the whole UN, the Niels Melzer interview, and we have a whole resistance going against the whole mainstream media side of things regarding Assange. And I wonder, Rico, how do you predict the near future to be like? I think the extradition case is in February next year. And how do you predict it to be? And what is the best thing we can do to make this a little more in our favor?
Asked this to Naomi Colvin in an interview, and she actually was hopeful in saying, well, Assange might still fight extradition and win not being extradited. And I thought, well, you're the expert, so if you have hope, that I could thank you for that. I needed that. I think I hope he lives, really. And if you see Chelsea Manning back in jail without any good reason, I see Assange being taken to the United States, and I also see the narrative changing, and we've talked about that for the last, I don't know, 45 minutes. The narrative in the broader audience is changing, but it's very slowly. So still people will associate Assange with the guy that did his disclosure in the wrong way, or that did all kinds of stupid things like rape people or whatever. So if we are to help him and help truth spread like a wildfire, I actually make a note of that one. That was a cool line mentioned earlier. We have to use the free internet for as long as we can, because they're coming down on that thing as well. Spread the information, and that's what I'm doing. Right? I'm actually started writing a book, so there is many people out there that do not go to Twitter, that do not go to whatever other social media, but that they will pick up a little book on their airport or in the kiosk or whatever. So I've decided to write a book, co-write it with Bailey Lemon, who's also been on your show, and it's going to feature very easily digestible chapters on whistleblowers. So it's going to be a Thomas Drake chapter in there, John Kiriakou chapter in there, a Ruli Post chapter in there. We mentioned them all in this broadcast, and I feel approaches like that, a very easily accessible book, just like these podcasts and just like my own podcast. That's what we need to do, and spread that, get it out there.
Yeah. So, and regarding that whole cutting down on the internet thing you mentioned, today we saw Unity4J losing their account, and another pro Assange account also lost their Twitter. It was kind of shocking to see that. So the Unity4J, that is one group that has been organizing some protests in defense for Assange. Used to do like podcasts too with people like Kim.com and stuff on there, and they lost their entire Twitter account today.
And did they give an excuse on what they were being? I mean, I don't get any reasons. Like half of it's shadow banning, and you don't even realize that nobody's seeing it, and the other half is when they straight up censor you or block your pages. Did they give a reason?
I don't think so. They did shadow ban my account too. When we knew that they were going to arrest Assange, he was in the embassy, and we did a broadcast about that too, and we had like the camera aimed from abruptly on the.
We got a guy out
on
there.
The embassy. Yeah, we had a guy up there too. Yeah. But I was asking for street support every day. Like I said, like people go to the embassy and stuff, and I remember about 6 hours before Assange was taken out of the embassy, my accounts were losing, did lose everything too. I was shadow banned and stopped from being visible. So I was unable to ask for physical support on the street for Assange. And the weeks before that, I did ask for it every time. And we even had like a Yellow Fest showing up and other people. They did actually listen to our calls for action. Um, so, yeah, they are cutting down on, especially on social media, bad. And so a book might be a smart thing, Rico. That's really all I want to say.
Now, the real question is if I'm going to get it published or not.
You can use bol.com, right? These days. They have like a print-on-demand thing or something.
Yeah, probably. Well, I'm going to try to sneak into the official channels and get myself in a just like any regular book, see what happens. I mean, there's not going to be any language in there. It's going to be very accessible. I mean, there's series out on television now about whistleblowers, so my book should fit in there. Only, well, it's an experiment also, see what happens. But we will eventually all be banned. I mean, Alex Jones was
yeah. I just love the way that you say it. We're eventually all going to be banned.
Yes, Alex Jones was on the front of that. And now you're up because you're calling people to go to the street in front of that embassy, and eventually even my little candle will end up being banned. The thing is, if we spread it enough and we have that 10,000 or 100,000 accounts going out there with information, well, they can only shut down, they could shut down the internet for social media wise, but good luck with that. That's not going to work.
Yeah, and I mean, people will recognize that symbol, as a symbol of truth, which can be extremely powerful. Yeah, the raised revolution fist, people know what that means all over the world, across all cultures, across all languages. I think the candle, the light in the darkness, is definitely a symbol of that.
All right, everybody. It's now 6 a.m. where I am, and my family's starting to wake up. So, thank you for having me on this show.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much. And just real quick, do you want to give out your podcast and your email, any information that you would like our viewers to have?
Yeah. So there's an interview coming out shortly, within a few hours. It's going to be on Café Weltschmerz. So that's not my channel. I don't release it, but they will release it this morning. I've got my own podcast. It's called Podkaars.nl. Podkaars. It's basically a pot with a candle in. Podkaars.nl. So, yeah, of course, share that. That's fun. Thomas Drake's on there. John Kiriaku's in there. The EU whistleblower, Rudy Post, is on there. Then, if you want to connect to me, so at Podkaars on Twitter or at Rico Brouwer, RICOBROUWER. On Twitter, and once we connected, you get my email and whatever. So thanks, everybody. Keep up the good work.
Excellent.
Thanks for coming on, Rico. We will also release the interview with Niels Melzer as soon as it comes out. So we will just link to your channel and make sure all the listeners get to see it. And yeah. Thanks from all of us for being here tonight.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Yeah, that was an awesome interview. Awesome.
So...
And good timing. We still have quite a bit on the topics list.
Yeah,
to be
thank
honest.
God I wrote them up.
Yeah. I don't know, guys. We haven't really talked about Jeff Epstein.
Oh yeah,
all.
that's a huge
one.
Yeah.
That's gonna be it's a fun one. Woo.
Yeah, so like the first time I heard about Jeffrey Epstein was during Pizzagate when Op Icarus was in its prime. So God, how long ago was that? 3 years ago? And I remember thinking that what was he going by at the time? I'm not going to actually say his screen name, but he was a big player at the time, and he was trying to shoot out Pizzagate during Op Icarus. And I remember seeing some stuff, and I remember like thinking it was kind of bullshit. But the more I kind of looked into Pizzagate, the more there was some stuff there, but it wasn't enough to tell a whole story. But now that we know that Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, John Podesta, Anthony Weiner, Donald Trump, and a lot of major players have been to Epstein Island.
We've got the flight records.
Yeah.
We've got quite a bit of information. It's just, the people that are involved. I mean, we get on, chances are we mention their weird rape island at least once. Every show. And yet all of these rich and powerful people have this weird Epstein amnesia, where as soon as you mention him, he's at their birthday parties, he's at their weddings, right? He's financing their campaigns. They're using his jets, driving his cars, hanging out in his mansion, having personal art put on the wall with Bill Clinton's fucking picture on it, right?
Obama
and now
too.
if you say Epstein, they're like, who? Epstein? Epstein? Yeah, dude, you're driving his car. That guy. Right? They all act like they have no idea. And for some reason, they've came up with this thing that 10 years is the acceptable time to have talked to a known child molester. I don't know how that matters all that much. But all of these people that are getting caught were well, I haven't talked to him in 10 years. 10 years? What is that? I don't know. The important question is, when did you know he was a fucking child molester? Bet you it was longer than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's kind of a problem, right? Yeah, and I mean, I know I got all sorts of hate mail and shit after posting a picture of Bill Clinton and that teenager on the rape plane. But is there another situation where that would be acceptable? If they weren't rich as fuck, right, and you saw a picture of Bill Clinton in a rape van, right, with a 15-year-old girl, I didn't fucking frame that for you, right? You're in a rape van, right, with a fucking teenager. That should have never happened. There should never be a time if your guy was all like, "Hey, you want to ride around my rape van?" No.
Ride around in my rape fan. Oh my god.
Well, Obama did it. Obama ran around in his rape boat.
Well, his boat and his jet. So that jet, the Lolita jet, right, is the one that Bill Clinton is always flying around in, right? 28 times, all for his fucking campaign, all sorts of shit. But it's already the name Lolita jet, air, did not just come up. That's been the name of that jet for 30 years. Right? Everybody knows it is that jet. You knew it when he was signing up, this Lolita jet, right? Right? You knew the name of that jet. You were going to Rape Island. What do you think fucking happens at Rape Island off of Lolita jet?
That's not true, Terrence. It wasn't like that.
Well, there's always been a weird conspiracy with Epstein Island, and I'm not going to name the secret society offhand because it's too controversial. But more than one source has named that secret society based on the symbols that are there. And you know what? I hate to say this, and I didn't believe it 3 years ago, but now I kind of am. It might actually be tied into a secret into that secret society. I'm not lying.
It might be, but I can guarantee you that Jeffrey Epstein, the notorious child trafficker and child molester, right, molested children on his private island. What else would a billionaire child molester do?
Oh yeah, in that weird gold temple that he has in the Caribbean.
Uh-oh.
You guys didn't know about that?
Sorry, no, I broke my.
Well, there's Epstein Island. He owns an island in the Caribbean, and he has a temple on there. You guys didn't know about that?
I didn't know about the temple, but the big story about Epstein is nobody can really figure out what the guy does exactly and where he got his money.
I can tell you that he's a pimp.
Well, he has to be set up to do all this because you cannot trace any of this money to him. It's like it just showed up out of nowhere. He
That's what
was
I'm
a
saying.
Bear
I
Stearns,
think he
you
has
know.
some real ties to the secret society. I don't.
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling. That's what I'm saying. And this secret society is not a small one. It's a big one and a major player. But I choose not to name it because I can't add X, Y, and
Yeah,
Z
and
to
we're
it.
gonna get some serious flack.
But the imagery, but the images and the symbols
Yeah.
are there. But
And from what
I
we
can't
even
directly tie it to them.
and even then, like, these guys, even if they're not directly connected to those societies, they'll make things like they are. There's certain symbols and whatever that these power elite are obsessed with. So, it's just as likely that they're playing pretend on their island as well. That doesn't mean that pretend isn't dangerous and involves, children, and I mean the things that a child trafficker does. But yeah, if the question is where did Jeff Epstein's money come from? I mean, dirty deals with child molesting politicians, right? That's how you get rich in Washington, obviously.
Well, during Pizzagate, Joe Biden was in the Pizzagate shit, and I'm surprised his name hasn't come up because he's been to
Yeah,
Epstein
and
Island
I've
as
now,
well.
as you guys know, I absolutely despise Joe Biden and everything that fucker stands for. But I haven't been able to find any real connection between him and, besides some donor shit here or there. I haven't been able to find any solid like proof of all of them together. Now they all work in the same circles, but I just haven't been able to find any direct evidence of it. Where some of the other players that are involved, the Clintons, Barbara Walters,
Anthony Weiner,
Donald Trump,
John
yeah,
Podesta.
Anthony Weiner, Podesta, they all have like direct lines. We can find heaps of evidence of them all being together. Where Biden doesn't seem to be at
Did you
that
ever hear
party.
about John Podesta at Epstein Island, and he was in a picture where he was wearing rose women's
Oh,
slippers, and it was supposedly a symbolism for something. I don't know. I was reading a lot into it, but apparently it was supposedly a symbol for some sort of sexual innuendo. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My biggest problem in there is that they have a worldwide sex trafficking ring that is deeply connected to our government and power elite. And that in itself is enough to stress me the fuck out. What weirdness you get up to in your private time is really your business. What color flip-flops you wear, man, that is not my problem. The fact that you're boning a child is a problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So, and that's something that, I mean, really through all of this, when, like I said, this 10-year thing that all of these politicians keep on pushing, who cares if you haven't talked to him in 10 years, right? First of all, I don't believe that. He's got your personal email, right? He's got your personal cell phone number. And you don't get, when it comes to certain people like the Clintons, like the Trumps, right? You don't get their personal fucking home phone number unless you're close. Because if it gets more than a couple of people away from you, then everybody will have it, right? Those numbers are super fucking secret, and you've got their fucking personal cell phone number. But even then, this guy's been running you guys have been running a sex trafficking ring for decades, right? Yep. Who cares if you haven't talked to him in 10 years? What about 20 years ago, right? When he was in that room with those child, did you talk to him then? Right? The question is, when did you know this shit was going on? And while everybody is bitching and moaning about when Trump should have went and ran to the FBI about getting information about from Russians, right? When should have you ran to the FBI when you're standing in a room with a known child trafficker?
Yeah,
right?
I think he's
shouldn't that
been
have been
on
your next
the.
stop?
I think he's been on the sexual predator list like for a couple of years now.
Well, let me ask you this question, right? Him and Bill Clinton were friends and close when Clinton was presidency. Did he know then? When you're the most powerful person in the country, right? When you can keep a person in prison on the other side of the world for doing nothing but being a journalist, right? What would you do to a person that you knew was a known child trafficker? Right? I'd have SEAL Team 6 kicking open your door so fucking quick. Right? But he didn't. right? And you can name off the times when these people have been in power, know who these clowns are, invite them to their parties, their yachts, their islands, use their boats. They know who they are. Did you see that fucking plane? It has Rape Van written all over it. It looks like a cheap budget 1970s porno, and that's who decorated the inside of his rape plane. It's horrible, man.
Yeah.
Right? And they're going to act like they have no idea what was going on. You're flying on something known as the fucking Lolita. Like, the thing looks like it's got nothing but beds in it to begin with. Like, it's some dark shit. And there Clinton is, fucking smiling big with a fucking teenage girl. Right? At the same time, he's got a teenage daughter. You don't think that maybe your daughter might want to hang out with a fucking teen celebrity?
You know, that actually reminds me.
Like,
do you remember when Trump said that if his daughter wasn't his daughter, he'd be dating her?
He said that like on the ad.
Yes,
yeah,
he did.
Yeah, that was weird. That was definitely weird. I don't know. So he was in this whole circle of nut jobs here, right? Of rich rapists. He's supposedly like raped a teenager at one of Epstein's parties as well. That's Trump.
I'm almost positive that the rapings have been going on for.
Well, I mean, she was underage to begin with. She was underage to begin with. She can't give consent, man. You're like, that doesn't matter. You know, when it comes to that's child molestation. It's always rape.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean that's like such I guess completely ignored, but yet, you know, when you see the pictures of all of them at each other's, you know, parties and all of that, it does pull back the curtain on the halls of power. These people are all connected, and I mean, Jesus, like how many of your friends, when it comes to the Clintons, that's Wiener, that's fucking Harvey Weinstein, that's Podesta, that's fucking that's Jeff Epstein. Like how many people around you are child molesters? That's
like
really
half
high
of Congress,
percentage
bro.
of child. Like when you see a picture of them hanging out at one of their rich kid parties, and you're like, "Fuck!" Everybody in this picture has been like arrested on child trafficking charges of some kind, or like
good.
aggressive like sexual harassment.
It's not good.
Yeah, like that is kind of, you know, that's bad. When you look at a picture and like, okay, well, half of the people here are known like people traffickers, and the other people in this picture have died under mysterious circumstances. That is not a good run.
No.
Bill Clinton's dick has got this country into more trouble than anything else. No, seriously. Can you name a policy that that has gotten as much coverage as the amount of trouble as fucking Bill's dick has gotten him in? Whether it was Monica, whether it was this shit, whether it was all the chicks in between, like it was nonstop. In 2019, we are still, Bill, keep it in your pants, man.
There's like a whole generation of kids from like the mid '90s on that know all about blowjobs and what was on the blue dress.
Yeah. The cum stains.
I don't think because I was just understanding everything that was going on there, right? And it was, I definitely learned a little bit. Like it made you inquisitive.
Daddy, what's a cum stain?
Well, that's when a president
that's
when a president and an intern.
Oh, we're gonna get censored somewhere.
No, in today's world, Daddy shows the son how that happened. See, that's how weird it is.
If you're in Washington, that is not super far from the truth. Like it has definitely gotten into hardcore weirdness. I can't I don't know. I can't imagine having that much power, right? And I'm talking about Clinton to begin with. Having that much power and access to those kind of resources, and then knowing about someone that's doing this and not doing anything about it. You know, for a lot of people, you can say, hey, man, you know, I couldn't say anything. I was scared I was going to lose my job. Or, you know, you can make up all sorts of, you know, like you're talking about before, fucking, you know, all sorts of cowards ways out that you want. But when you're the most powerful person on the planet, arguably, you did nothing. Less than nothing. You covered for him.
Well, hey, Obama said some things were over his pay grade. I mean, really?
Yeah, but I mean, as
Like
president,
what?
I'd take issue with that. We'll find out, man. Won't we? You know,
But why is it happening? Why is it happening now under the Trump administration then?
I don't
Because
think
he's compromised.
Oh yeah,
he's
and
compromised big time.
I don't.
No, I mean, like, why is the attack on? I mean, like, real quick. I mean, why is the attack on Epstein happening now under the Trump administration? Because the QAnons did predict this. They did say it's going to happen.
You know, like, honestly, like, when I first heard of Epstein Island and the secret society that he was affiliated with, I thought it was when Pizzagate was going on. Like, this is a weird thing. All of the Pizzagate people have disappeared and they're not saying anything. Like, I don't know if it was just a trend, but I remember Pizzagate very vividly. But, like, when all of that stuff was going on, I thought it was bullshit, right? Like, it was just too weird. You know, it was too weird of a story. There's an island where all of these like billionaires get together and they have sex with underage children. It's tied to a huge secret society. Like, I thought it was bullshit. And then 3 years later, there's a court case revolving around it. I'm like, holy shit.
Well, I mean, like it's just, you know, we tend to put some kind of weird, fantastical thing over it,
dude,
right?
because it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre.
It's not though. The rich and elite, as long as we let them get away with it, right, have always molested children. They always have.
They got time and money, man. They got a lot of time on their hands, and they come up with weird ideas, man.
Well, yeah, like Bohemian Grove and the
you
gay
get
sex
into
orgies. Yeah, I get it. I get that, but like that's
it's kind of being shocked. It's kind of like being shocked that the church is hiding child molesters inside of the.
I got you there.
Like, it's so, of course, they always have. As long as we allow them to do it, they will. Like, everything that's going on here, we have definitely allowed to happen. You know, we allowed, you know, when it comes to, we allowed someone to lobby, right, to lower the times that you can charge somebody with child molestation. We allowed that to happen. Right? We elected people that didn't immediately stand up and punch whoever came in their fucking office and said that. Right? We elected those spineless bastards. Right? Everybody except for the news media and the politicians standing right next to Jeff Epstein expect us to believe that they knew nothing about this. And that's a blatant lie.
Bro, like 3 years ago, there was so much information on Epstein Island, like, that was coming out. Like, I thought it was bullshit at the time, but there's enough to make a court case out of what was coming out 3 years ago. So I'm surprised it took 3 years for this case to become what it is now.
I mean, this stuff about Epstein and Trump goes back to the late 90s. That's when it first hit. If you listen to now he's pretty much been banned off the internet, but like a Pastor David Manning, he's a black guy out of Harlem. He's got all the dirt on Trump, man, has for years, and nobody listens.
It's not, I mean, it is not odd for billionaires to do anything that we see here.
Well, right? I think it has a direct connection to the secret society, but, you know.
I mean, like that's the deal. Like, they always have, it seems like once you get a certain amount of money, you can put the secret society on it. Yeah. Right. You can put, you know, whatever group that they're part of. But, you know, we've talked about this before. The power elite always think that they're special. Right. They always have a reason for molesting our children. Always. And they, you know, whether it's God, whether it's the church, whatever, when they get that money and that power to a certain extent, it's a decadence thing. Right. And you don't even have to. This is the child molesting and child trafficking. Totally a problem. Look, you don't get to be a billionaire, let alone a multi-billionaire, without being a horrible person. Right. In one way or another, you have to fuck people over to become that rich. You have to. Yeah. Right. You want to make $1 billion. You want to make $1 billionaire. You're a billionaire in electronics. You have to use slave labor. right? You have to. That's how you be a billionaire. Now, in your country, everybody can think you're a great person. But at the end of the day, you have to use slave labor to do it, right? So you can't show me a billionaire that isn't a horrible person, that probably isn't, guilty of war crimes. They don't exist.
True.
And this is one of the ways that they do it, for sure, right? It has to do with a decadence thing. They buy the more and more decadence. If they can make their furniture out of baby seal fucking, skin and the last fucking ostrich or the last animal, they'll do it, for sure.
Ew.
Our children is one more thing that the power elite have always tried to steal from us. Always. People's innocence. They're into it. That's what they do. But it's like we get totally stuck in some of the things that are completely and utterly obvious, right? The power elite molest our children. They always have. When they were kings, they did it, right? They do it now. They've always done it, right? When another thing that's completely obvious, if there's corruption going on in DC, the Clintons are like one step behind. That's what they do.
Yep.
I would be surprised when you hear the word corruption in DC. I'm shocked when the Clintons aren't involved. It's like Biden, right? Like I went and immediately looked up Biden, Jeff Epstein, right, to see the picture of him like telling everybody that he was a good guy. But no, I couldn't find any. Right? The Clintons, no. Type in something corrupting government, and guaranteed the Clintons are right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, his whole thing is really what, when it comes to Bill Clinton, like, look, man, I don't know how else to say this is a picture of you in the rape plane. I didn't rape that girl. Okay, man, but this is a picture of you in a rape van with a teenage girl, and it is really dark in this plane, like really, really dark, man. We were just talking. Right? Like if you open the door and saw Bill Clinton and that girl like sitting on the bed together, you would stay in the room, right? You would be that creeped out. Like, hey man, let's get some lights on in here, huh? Let's Right, now keep the door open. Like, it gives off the smile on his face, the look on his eyes, right? Nothing good is about to happen inside a said rape fucking plane.
Well, with Bill Clinton is kind of special, I think, with Bill Clinton, because he must have some kind of special fetish, right? Because he was not an unpopular president at all. I mean, if he wanted, like, there was like many girls would stand in line to even be with him, right? I mean, this is just what it does, like fame and stuff. So he must have some kind of weird fetish to even be involved with that stuff. That is what I'm thinking, in a personal way.
I don't know what his malfunction is. I don't know, like, which issue gets him in trouble, whether it's like a self-control thing, whether it's an innocence thing, whether it's you're part of weird sex rings. I don't know. I mean, like I said, there's plenty of people that are under the impression that Hillary is in full, like, knowing of all of it. It's just that it keeps on coming out that she's pissy about.
Well, she'd have to know. I mean, you can't be married to a guy like that all that time.
Did I ever explain on this show what happened to Bill Clinton in the 90s with Hillary at Bohemian Grove?
Was he? Is he not allowed to go to Bohemian Grove?
Okay. So Bill Clinton was invited to Bohemian Grove, but Hillary wasn't, and so Bill was entering the facility, and I guess maybe like an hour had gone by, and Hillary was outside, and she tried to storm the entrance. And I guess the security or Secret Service was there because I think some president was, I don't remember who it was at the time, had so the Secret Service had escorted her off the property, but she was mad at Bill because he was at he was at a place, where orgies go on, and she wasn't going to have it. And, it's rumored that gay sex orgies happen there, and, Bill was going to partake in some of it. I don't know.
I can't imagine you doing anything good at Bohemian Grove. So I mean, no, promise, baby, I wasn't here for the orgy. Why are you in your boxers wearing a mask? It's the pool.
Yeah, I think that was right around the time that Alex Jones was there. I think Alex Jones went during the early 2000s. Am I right?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
that
was
just
during
seems.
the Bush era.
Oh, okay. So it was the
Yeah,
Bush
he,
or
he
Bush
slid in
Jr.
with yeah he slid in with some credentials that were tied to like Bush people. You know, he couldn't exactly figure out who it was, but he knew some of the code words to get through security.
Oh my God.
What's funny is that when you search for Bohemian Grove on certain social media platforms, there are pictures that still get leaked out from there.
Well, and I mean that's the deal. So I mean, are they going to go through and look up Jeff Epstein, all of his phone records, and see who you called on, the days of Bohemian Grove? Do we get to see that? I bet you were super popular. I have a sneaking suspicion. Right? So I mean, there's certain events and certain things that go on that I would certainly want to see what his phone records are. Are they going to try to act like they can't tell us that, like they don't know what his phone records were on those days?
Well, no, they are. They're Clinton's blocking the library from putting out records pertaining to Epstein and all this. They
Oh,
totally
probably
illegal,
like
but
pictures and stuff of him. Because I mean, they're like all of them. They're so interconnected.
it's a library until you need to see the stuff. Then you don't need to know.
Yeah, now they're trying to desperately. Yeah, she'll be in there like putting her interns to burn in the pictures of them in the 70s and 80s at parties with Epstein. I guarantee they're trying to desperately get rid of stuff. I mean, they all are.
Well, yeah, they still claim that like these emails are lost. It's like, come on, all internet traffic is
Yeah,
taped.
right.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean
so
it's one of
nothing's
those.
lost. It's
Yeah, come on,
it's
give
just
me
nonsense.
15 minutes in the NSA and I'll get them for you. No problem. No problem.
Lie after lie. Then you got this Secretary of Labor, Trump, who gave them this sweet deal, trying to act stupid like they don't know nothing. And it's just
Yeah.
like, come on, you guys suck. Just you're caught. Just give it up. Just quit
Well, I mean,
being.
they can't because I mean, one of these guys is going to squeal. I mean, I don't know. I think this has the potential to be extremely extremely big.
Yeah. Well, and it will be because, well, look, if you understand the whole thing is to have a compromised system, right? Where you get blackmailed for being a pedophile, then you get to go to the top. So if all that is true, what does that tell you about the guys at the top and the top guy? Well, of course, I mean, this all makes sense now. Of course it
Nah,
does.
he's gonna
That's what
get
happens.
you. Mark my words. It's a matter of time before he commits suicide under suspicious condition. You watch. You watch. Remember the DC madam? Right? When was the last time
Oh
you heard
yeah.
about that? Right? Remember she had the dirt on every single one of them. Remember she released like number 99 or something on her little black book of names and said if they tried to push on her, she'd release number 1. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Terrence is right. Like, no matter how powerful this guy was, they are going to let him take the fall alone. So he has so much dirt about these guys that they will probably suicide him. Yeah.
Yeah, he'll commit suicide under suspicious. Oh no, they like the one now? He'll be killed by another president.
Yeah, he'll play
Right?
the
They just
stupid game
happen
of
to
like,
be
well,
looking the other way.
he'll play the stupid game of I'm going to release the info, which is exactly the wrong thing. You need to just dump it out there because if you threaten to do it, well, then you're dead.
Yeah. Well, no, if he had
You got
info that was gonna, I mean, not.
probably dead anyway.
Yeah, I think the only info that probably would save his life would be info on the Clintons, to be honest. Just because the fact that Trump could pin something to Hillary, he would probably fucking yeah, give you anything that you want. Yeah, a presidential medal. So I mean, that would have been his only way out. I look for now, rather than the entire network be exposed, because that's what it is, right? He's being charged with child trafficking. Trafficking means you were sending him somewhere, right? That's different than just child molestation, you know, than child rape. So yeah, I look for rather than them have to deal with that, I look for him to, like I said, commit suicide under suspicious conditions, car accident, um, robbery at an ATM, those kind of things. Plane crash. Yeah, plane crash. But yeah, those things that just happens to happen, you know, that happens to go down around the Clintons for some reason. Got a high probability of ending up dead. Yeah, shit. When you look at a picture and everybody in the picture is either a child molester or has committed suicide. Because there's something in the water you should know about. Those aren't just good statistics. It does not pay to be their friend, right? Like,
No, not. I mean, either one really, Clinton or the Trumps. I mean, just look at the people around him, man. They're all going down.
yeah, they're all in prison for one thing or another. Lying to Congress, like they all claim to have each other's backs when they're talking to Congress, and then as other things don't go their way, they totally let them fry. I haven't heard. Is Michael Cohen in prison? Does he actually have to go to prison? He's involved in all
He's
those
supposed
things,
to
by
be
the
in
way.
prison, but I don't know
Yeah,
why
that's what
he's
it's supposed
not.
to be. Yeah, I don't think he is. I think they like let him out. He doesn't have to go. I
He's
don't
in the work
understand how
release
that
program.
works. I just don't understand how that works. Like you came in and lied to everybody, and like you're a horrible, despicable fucking sleazeball of a person, but yet you get out because you said it on live TV. I don't understand. I don't understand why he's not in jail. Like all sorts of fraud, the hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? I steal hundreds of thousands of dollars. They might give me the fucking share, but this guy can defraud anybody he wants, anyone. I think he spent like a week in prison, and not like real prison like Julian Assange, right? That's big boy prison. He's got like his own little apartment with a little study work area, TV, internet. What else do we have? We got quite a bit of technology.
I put a lot of stuff on there.
List.
It was supposed to be another show. John McAfee is still in Cuba.
Cuba.
Yeah, he you know, this is a weird story, and I thought it was bullshit because you know John McAfee is using a lot of drugs and he's drinking all the time and he's snorting cocaine. So John McAfee, not last week, or it was the week before, he apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently John McAfee pays people that look like him to kind of go around the areas that he's kind of in to do different things. He has a double. So apparently, while he went to Cuba, while he left the Bahamas, apparently there was some weird search as he was about to leave. They were trying to search his boat, and they were unsuccessful because he's not technically a citizen of the Bahamas, and there's nothing they could really do. But apparently, that there was a double that he had hired that was in the Bahamas, and he gave John McAfee a call about 11 days after he had left while he was in Cuba that he was in the hospital, and apparently, according to the doctor, he was poisoned, and he has no idea how he ended up in the hospital. He has no idea what had happened for 4 or 5 days. I thought it was kind of bullshit because, you know, John McAfee's on a lot of drugs. But then again, John McAfee is not a nobody either. So
well, I mean, he can, like, he does have all of those doubles, so I don't know. I mean, what this? I don't know. I hadn't heard that. Last I had heard was just the thing that he was in Cuba. Cuba's got some pretty harsh drug policies, so hopefully he doesn't get himself in more trouble.
It's John. You know, he'll do something.
Well, he almost has to be invited there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
there's monetary motivation because John's finances are not doing so well. So
Don't end up in
they're
Guantanamo.
not bad, but for millionaire status, he's not doing well. You know.
I don't know. It seems like he's doing fine. Like,
Well, he's going to third world countries. You know, with millions of dollars. So
yeah, but the people that he's paying for his doubles are white, right? They're right. Like they're not like just people that he's picking up on the way. You know, that's not cheap. You know, that's a couple $1 million right there.
you think, right? But
oh yeah, like you have to, and you got to play the whole part, right? You can't just, you can't be in a shack somewhere, right? You have to pretend like you're John McAfee, so you got to have the apartment or the fucking, hotel room, the dinners and all of that stuff to be seen as a double. That sounds super expensive. Plus the ship and the boat hands and the maintenance on top of that and the fucking
now
cocaine.
that he's in Cuba, I don't think any of the stuff on the boat is going on right now. I think he's looking into getting property in Cuba.
Oh, that they would give him a free, that they would give him immunity or something.
It's not a bad place because they were I heard back end they were thinking about moving Julian to Cuba at one point too. Because they're never going to have an agreement with the United States.
Think of the people he has to work with now. I mean, he's a murderer on the run, on the ocean. I mean, this is a select group of people who'd be willing to like get you a double, provide you with a Merc team. I mean,
That's some Hemingway shit, man.
I think he's had a double for quite a few years, so I don't think the double is new. So
well, yeah, I mean, I hadn't personally heard anything about that, but that doesn't mean that it's not true. And he does get on and say some crazy stuff. I'd love to get him on the show. I say that ever. I'd love to get. I just want to hear how's it going, buddy.
That's probably not out of the question because he's not that hard to get a hold of.
We are actually trying it. We are actually replying to his stuff, and he is sometimes liking it and things. And he is sometimes replying to. But
maybe if we send him a couple of, we send him some weed or something, maybe he'll go on or something. I don't know.
Well, he's not a dumb guy, this guy. He's just like you're saying, like he's like heavily on drugs and stuff, but he's not a dumbass. He has like a lot of experience in business in the past and stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but
he will survive.
I did look into some of that story, and I mean, I thought it was a little bit different than I thought it was. So I mean, yeah. I think that you count as a murder spree, man, and that's kind of that was like all unconnected. So yeah, like I saw
it was over his dog too. So
well, one of them was kind of, it seems, but you murdered 3 people.
I thought it was just one. I thought it was a neighbor.
No, you murdered 3. And like in 2 different countries. So I mean, you really, that counts as, I don't know what you were doing there, but it definitely counts as a murder spree before you win all this. It's just, again, like, man, you got so much money, and we've got these weird, our laws make no sense sometimes.
Hey, and you get too far down the cocaine bottle pathway, man. I mean, this happens every time. I mean, this is pretty predictable.
It's not going to end well, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been saying that for months. I think he's going to be fine. I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about. He's living it up off a yacht in Cuba, and we're all like, it ain't going to last very long. He's doing great.
He's doing, well.
That's better than most people will ever do. At this point, he's pretty much a fucking pirate. So
that is the lesson from all these guys, is that they can do all this shit for 10 to 20 years. You can know about it. You got all the proof and videos and everything else, and they still get away with it. That's the lesson.
So make a lot of money, kids, so nobody can question what you do.
Yeah, and then
Hey,
That's pretty much the moral of the story here.
yeah, don't be like us. Don't let your mama let you grow up to be a hacker. Cowboy either. They don't go
yeah.
anywhere.
What's that? Yeah, that sounded like what's that song? Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be hackers.
So what kind of money does this guy have then?
All the money.
Supposedly he had 100 million and lost that. According to a lot of sources, he lost about half of it at one point, and then spent a lot of it in Belize. He had what they thought was an antibiotics lab, but the Belize government thought he was making drugs. I did too. I thought he was making research chemicals over there that was supplying his drug habit, which I think really was going on. They searched it. They found nothing.
Okay,
he
wait
bought
a
an
minute.
island. Yeah.
Wait a minute. So there's some sort of dispute that he was like running a pharmaceuticals company without a license with it's just a meth lab. That's just called a meth lab. I know was he trying to spin it to the government there that's not what it was. Oh no, these are just research chemicals for my drug problem. Yeah, that's called a meth lab. That's just called a meth lab.
Yeah, and and he bought an island in Belize. It was somewhere. It was off the shores of Belize, but it was part of Belize. So he bought an island, and then he bought a house that was on the island. He would go back and forth between there, and somewhere in between there, he killed his neighbor. A lot.
Yeah, it's definitely like I said, pretty much a pirate at this point.
Yeah, now he's wanted for the IRS for tax evasion. He's wanted in Belize for murder.
Like I don't want to offend anybody. Like,
oh yeah, Interpol has like an active.
You did murder someone. The tax evasion is really not that big of a deal to me.
But you would think the IRS could go after him. It's like, come on, you can't just be floating around in international waters and acting like that's okay. I mean, the law still applies there too.
Yeah, I agree. I would think that murder would be enough to do that.
I mean, we claim we can go after anybody, anywhere. Even expats are supposedly liable for IRS taxes now. So I mean, come on, it's everywhere. You don't get to walk unless you pay somebody off.
Yeah, which he's probably done.
Yeah, it's obvious. I mean, it's like all these people. It's just all secret deals. It's all paid for, arranged beforehand. I haven't seen anybody get in trouble. Well, it's like the 2008 downturn. See, no bankers got in trouble. Even in previous downturns, they would always throw somebody out there as, S&L bailouts or any of this stuff in the past. They throw a couple of guys out there to make you think something was going on. Now it's just like, well, nobody got in trouble. $6 trillion fuck up, but
he stepped down. It's all good. He stepped down to spend more time with his family. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, and then that's supposed to be the end of it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, we got him. We made him step down.
Well, yeah, like what? Did you see Did you guys see the thing in the leadership in Flint? Like he stepped down because he was responsible for poisoning everybody's water. So they made him an instructor at I think Harvard or Yale. Gave him a big award, pat on the back, huge salary.
Yeah, and they say crime doesn't pay. I mean,
yeah,
right
after they dropped all the charges and everything, it's a win.
It is. Yeah, how do you go from being charged, and then a week later or 10 days? It wasn't very long, and then all cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a quick deal. Somebody made some quick deals fast.
Yeah, they shouldn't be able to do that. So are we gonna? We do have a couple of things that I want to make sure that we get to. We kind of talked about the Twitter outage, but we need to. We'll probably have more on that between now and Sunday or now and next Thursday.
Uh-huh. Did we lose him?
I think he just dropped out.
Are you serious?
Weird timing.
What the fuck? You gotta be
Still
kidding.
there.
Terrence. What the flying fuck?
Okay, well, this time our listeners could hear it clearly. There's something going on there.
He hit his
Please
3-hour
repeat.
limit. It always happens around hour 3.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Twitter outages and stuff. He was saying we have more about that start of next week or so.
Let me see. What else do we have? Oh
You
yeah,
posted a
Facebook.
picture.
Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg last week. He. So this is bomb scare number 3 in the last 12 months. So Mark Zuckerberg pissed off the wrong person, and somebody mailed him some sarin gas.
Just tell me it worked. That's all I want to hear.
This is like the only person I would like laugh out loud for him receiving sarin fucking gas. Sorry,
fucking hell.
He must have pissed somebody off. Somebody's mad enough to do that to him. I mean, it's a shame.
So yeah, the last bomb scare I think was in October, and the time before that was in May of last year. So in 12 months, Mark Zuckerberg has had 3 bomb attempts. Honestly, I can't stop laughing.
Some people are taking delete Facebook a little too serious. Guys, you can actually use the buildings and stuff for like homeless shelters and stuff. So be a little careful.
That's what we're going to turn the if Facebook headquarters into is going to be a giant homeless shelter when I'm done with that fucker. He's going to be a
Yes.
there.
Anyway, it's true.
Job.
Yeah.
But yeah,
God.
like I know billionaires, they have a lot of attempts on their life, but Mark Zuckerberg seems to piss off the wrong person. So somebody mailed him sarin gas.
And no, see, the thing is, he's pissed everybody off. Nobody even cares. It's like, oh yeah, Mark, well, fuck him, you know.
Just some guy probably wants like send like an angry letter, and he was like writing. He's not angry enough. It's not bad enough. Never mind. I'm just going to send him fucking sarin gas.
Well, then you have like that was that Iranian gal. You know, I was actually, you know, if I can get on there and get the job done, man. You know, it's true.
Let me ask Terrence where he is.
I mean, we can't promote like murder and stuff on TV, but on the stream. But I can say like, I'm not sure if he deserves to die, but I can say this is not a good person. This Zuckerberg. So, yeah.
No, he's not good in anything in any way, shape, or form. In fact, he's already caused the conflict in Hawaii, where he's owned a whole side of an island, and he's trying to justify it while there are people that want to live on that part of the island. He's a piece of shit.
He's fenced off land that's not his, and they're finally calling him on it. But it's, you know, that's the way he thinks. It's all about Mark Zuckerberg. That's all you need to know.
Sorry, I got booted. We're talking about him and his Hawaiian island?
We're talking about Mark Zuckerberg, yeah, and the 3 attempts on his life in 12 months.
You're cutting off too, Tyler.
Am I?
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah.
Yeah,
and
true.
we shouldn't. We've got 150 meg.
Echo, test. Oh, shit. You're right. I am erroring out. What the fuck is going on here? All right.
Just the NSA. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Be all right.
Well, all the networks, Google's having some sort of problem as well. In its search returns, Just an error keeps on coming up every couple of times. Twitter, I don't think, although they're calling it good, I still think it's not super stable yet. It keeps on having like connection errors every once in a while where nothing comes up again. So yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, me either. I was having some major lag going on there. Guys?
Yeah, I'm still here. There is a lot going on. Then it means like probably something is going on at Cloudflare, maybe.
Oh yeah. There was an attack going on Cloudflare last week, and we know who tried and claimed it, but we don't know if they actually did it. But yeah, like so Cloudflare last week went down about a couple million websites more than a couple million. I think it's tens of millions of websites went down with it. So whoever attacked Cloudflare had some serious firepower. I'm not joking.
You can't just take Cloudflare down in 2019 without serious power.
Yeah,
impossible.
and has anybody taken responsibility for that one either?
Yes, but we don't know if they actually did it.
I haven't for the couple of these, it's just the MO that you kind of know their work and not particularly that anybody has admitted to it. It's been weird.
Let's just say that the evidence isn't really credible, and if these guys who are claiming it are listening, you can't make us believe that you can actually buy these little booters to take down Cloudflare. So.
I'm not buying it.
Isn't standard issue for a Cloudflare website's like 64 gigabytes, right? Somewhere around there.
You were cutting off again now.
Oh, I think. Oh, well, it's like 64 gigabytes for Cloudflare, right?
Oh, for one server.
Yeah.
It must be like a cluster then, like a big server. Multiple servers. Yeah, well, I know that like in 2013. Cloudflare was like kind of like shaking the Cloudflare network, but that took like 400 gigabit to do it. Year 2019 now, I'm thinking you need like a 1500 to 3000 gigabit of power to shake this network. So now there's pretty much the same power you need to take the United States offline. So yeah, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening.
Maybe to test out, if something worked. To see if it could be done.
Yeah, it must be like state sponsored, or there must be like a.
I mean, there just comes a certain point where it almost has to be, even if they are. Nah. I don't. I don't want to talk about that anymore.
About what?
Yeah, I don't like. Yeah, I with one of the recent hacks, I just think that it is a state-sponsored hack, and that they're using, people that know that they're being used as government agents to do it.
Yeah, the thing with Cloudflare is like. If you like attack the main Cloudflare network, it has a technique that automatically routes all the traffic and divides it over all the different Cloudflare locations. So they're literally, if you attack it, you're going to have to take down all of these data centers at once, and then you're pretty much talking about a global outage. And the only other way is to attack network providers. Simultaneously, but you need like multiple botnets for that. You need like 20 or 30 different botnets, each powerful enough to take like a big provider down. So I just don't see it happening. It's like Yeah, it's like a serious attack by like a serious state-sponsored hackers, different states even doing it maybe. Or, yeah. It's just not 2010 anymore. It's just it doesn't really happen like that.
Yeah, you'd need. It could be done. You just need a huge amount of power to do it.
Yeah, and people willing to do it, give up their money-making botnets to do it.
Well, that's why I mean it's like I said, it's got to be state. Some of these have got to be state sponsored just because of the resources that it takes to pull it off. Like you can do it on paper, right? But then to actually pull it off, it costs to set up that many servers. To set up, 10, 100, 200 fucking botnets in different places to all attack one system at one time. It'd be super difficult to pull off.
Yeah, and especially in this mining age now, like where some of us are into crypto, that like people use that. Yeah, there are like CPU mineable coins. There are some people with big botnets. They simply use them for money now. They're not going to waste their botnet on some random attack on some website anymore. This is not. Yeah.
But just as likely, some of these sites have some like obvious weakness that they didn't account for, that they know about, and is being exploited. That happens relatively often as well.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Where some other system or some other piece in the puzzle that it ends up messing it up. So yeah, who knows? Sometimes you're just not looking at it the right way. And like, yeah, you would have to affect all those at the same time, but you get the the Windows 95 or Windows 98 problem, where you got millions and millions and millions of computers that have got Windows 98 or Windows NT running on them inside of these facilities. So they have like some huge security hole on the inside of a system that you would be able to take advantage of. They were able to overheat the goodness. Yeah, well, they use the cooling fans, but for the like uranium processing in Iran, they like overheated them.
So I did comment on that, like not here on I did comment on our main chat. So, my dad was explaining to me, because he has a bachelor's in biochem. So he explained to me that the amount of uranium that they have, which is like 300 kilograms, is not really enough to produce a significant amount of plutonium. So now that they say that they're going to raise their enrichment of uranium to 5%, we're still talking about like less than a pinch of plutonium. So we're talking maybe 20, maybe 40, 50 years for them to produce enough to make a bomb.
Oh, I mean, I'm not. I don't think that they're in any that they're any threat to the United States and a nuclear bomb. I mean, that's silly. I mean, you know what I mean? It's almost laughable. Especially, to even to get stressed out about them having a nuclear bomb. Like, we've got thousands. I mean, how many? 10,000, 20,000, how many nuclear bombs? All the nuclear bombs? We've got so many. It's like, does it matter that they've got one? I don't care. I really don't. Right? So, I mean, this is just that they were able to hack into their, I forget the centrifuge system. I forget which system it was that they were able to hack into and overheat. So, I mean, flaws in these systems do exist.
Well, it actually wasn't a hack. They had the Mossad had a spy go in there and put in a USB that had 20 lines of code. It was called Stuxnet. And they just put the USB in the terminal and let the fireworks begin. The rods wouldn't pull out. The uranium rods go up and down to cool and heat the nuclear facility. Well, the rods wouldn't move after Stuxnet was started, and then everybody ran out of the facility, and then the Iranian Secret Service started killing the scientists because they didn't know who the fuck it was. But it was the Mossad the whole fucking time with one USB stick with 20 lines of code.
So I can't say that they weren't able to, you know what I mean, that something similar like that hasn't happened somewhere else where you're able to get some software into something and exploit a weakness, which may be what one of these cyber attacks is.
You do have to know that on the case with Iran, they were actually buying Siemens equipment, and if you put your nuclear capabilities in the hands of equipment you buy from Europe and the US, then of course you're going to be backdoored. But
yeah, well, I'm surprised it took. Well, that's something that they're having problems with. Like everybody that's making software, wants their government wants a backdoor and like full access to all the information on it. So I mean that is something that we keep on seeing. Just about tech companies and Europe, the 3% tax in France on Google and do you know the other companies that are going to be involved in it? There's a couple of telecoms that are involved.
Oh, the 3% tech. Yes, I saw that. I wasn't really sure about what that was all about, but I think this is like going against what the Yellow Vest movement was all about. Anti globalism and this and that, and yet their president signs an executive order to tax the poor or to put more taxes online. So, I'm not sure what it was really all about, to be honest.
So, like, some of this has to do with, like, a game that all of these corporations play. So, like, they'll exist and be doing business in a country, but then they don't have to pay taxes because, well, our headquarters are in another country. So a lot of these big tech companies have managed to skirt around paying taxes, even though they really should be paying sales taxes and all of this stuff. So, and this is something like several other countries are already like taxing them, like any other company that would be doing business there. I think Germany, England, and now France. Are all employing taxes on them, and I think that's fair to a like $1 trillion company that doesn't pay any taxes. That does make sense, and it doesn't affect small companies. So it's like anything other than like lower than $100 million. This doesn't affect. So you got to make more than $100 million for this 3% tax to affect you. But I think that's more than fair to companies that pay zero in taxes. Like Jeff Bezos pays zero in taxes, and the company makes more money than he does. Right? They pay zero in taxes. So yeah, I'm kind of torn on what to think about it. Right? I think they probably do need to put in their fair share. Now, will those same governments put it to good work? Probably not. I think if I remember correctly, it comes out to $500,000.
Whoa! What?
500 mil. 500. Sorry. I think it comes out to $500 million. Oh. All together.
$500 million.
Yeah, but if your company makes $1 trillion a year, $500 million is really not all that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's like $500 million. It's not that much money, right?
Fuck them.
Maybe maybe $500 billion Zimbabwe dollars is nothing, but
you know what? Look, if you want me to fight for your like well-being as a company, you're gonna have to do some serious good in the world. Otherwise, I'm only gonna be so upset about it. Oh, they're taxing me. Bummer. That sucks. You rich bastard.
Well, there are always ways.
I'm not gonna see any of it, so.
These corporations can easily get out of these tax. I think they use these very smart scams for, of course. They like Bucks does it. They just register their logo in some other country where they don't pay sales tax, and then they will just buy their license from themselves. They register a second company in such a country, and they start buying the licenses fees from themselves. So they're paying to another company where they don't pay tax, and then they take that off their profits in a country like France, and they will still pay zero tax. Like this is
yeah. So I mean, we're gonna have to like the days where you could just like hide your like that whole system there. Yeah, that's got to go. Like that what I was saying earlier. You don't get to go because I'm standing on one foot. I don't have to pay any taxes. Like who the fuck makes up that rule? Everybody has to pay taxes. Knock it off. But I'm rich. I shouldn't have to pay taxes. No, everybody has to pay taxes. Quit being a dick. Like stop. But I put all of my ones and zeros in the Cayman Islands. Yeah, you still gotta pay taxes. I don't care where you're. Like, there's certain things. It doesn't matter where you go. You still don't get to do that. You don't get to use child labor. Oh well, it was in Indonesia. No, you don't get to use child labor anywhere. That shouldn't be it shouldn't be hard. You should. What would make you think that you could just go somewhere else and do it? Right? Like, there's certain you can't hide your money in other places. Right, change the address on the address form, so now I don't have to pay taxes to anyone. That's just stupid. I don't understand why we let them get away with that. Yeah, it makes no sense to me. Even when they like the way that the way that they get away with it makes no sense to me. I move my electronic numbers to electronic bank in the Cayman Islands, so I don't have to pay taxes.
Yeah,
who
it's criminal.
Who makes up those rules?
Well, the criminal cartel makes up the rules. I mean, you see this everywhere. I mean, these guys are in charge. They get to do whatever the fuck they want, and you can't say nothing about it.
Oh no, we're gonna say something about it. I don't know if anybody's gonna listen, but yeah, we're definitely gonna say something.
At some point, they just become so powerful. Was it like this time there was? That's like been for 20 years. They were like Google, Amazon, Apple, and everyone were all had their company registered in my their HQ was registered in my company. There was not in my country. There was nothing there. Only like a mailbox, and they registered the companies there. And but my country total makes like 800 billion a year, right? But these companies, American companies registered in my country, made like 8,000 a year. So they were 10 times our entire economy, just these few American businesses. And they simply call the tax collection agency and they just make deals with them. Like, literally, like, do you want to make money from us in taxes, like at least a few billion, or do you want us to leave? That's pretty much what they say.
Yeah, they should just, let's pick a number.
yeah. Let's pick a number. Yeah, and that of course this government is going to listen to it because they still want to make some in tax. They do actually use it for like healthcare and all that stuff. So yeah, actually making roads. So.
It seems so corrupt. I don't know what the deal is. Like, you know, the guy that's roofing doesn't get that deal.
No, exactly. No, it is only these companies who are too big to, they can just leave. They can just say, like, we go to the next country, they'll accept us, we don't care. They just put like a mailbox in, that's enough for them to be like a legally registered company in here. Like.
Well, and what was, and I didn't see the whole story to be honest, but like Google was moving to another state, New York maybe?
No, I heard they ended up back not in New York.
No, like wherever they were supposed to go, the government was supposed to pay them a whole crap load of money to move their headquarters there. It may have been Amazon to move their headquarters there, and they didn't. You know, they said, okay, well then we're not doing it. But like they have to have their headquarters there to do business anyway, right? So yeah, it turns out they were able to move their headquarters there without taking all of our taxpayer money. How cool is that? Who would have saw that coming? I bet you there's a lot of stuff that we're paying for, like huge subsidies for, that will continue to get done even if we're not paying them huge subsidies. I have a sneaking suspicion.
Yeah, and on paper they're always losing money. Like, so they're always losing money, but they're actually making huge profits.
Yeah, a guy pulls up on his third yacht and tells you that he's losing money. That's like, oh my goodness, those pictures. Like Biden's got a campaign going on, and like he's riding around in his Corvette, pulling up to like his fifth mansion, like and asking for donations at the same time. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like nothing says grassroots like a billionaire in a sports car pulling up to his fifth mansion asking you for money.
Well, you didn't know his address. Yeah.
God told him. Said it was all right.
That's a guarantee. If he says, like, that's the guaranteed way to fucking lose an election right there. Every guy that says that God told them to run immediately loses.
Yeah,
It's the prosperity gospel, Terrence. You don't understand.
Yeah, if you just look, man, if you just send me a couple $1,000, right, you'll get a couple $1,000. That's how it works. It says it right there in the Bible. Right here in the Bible.
It totally fits the grifter / lifestyle that you see. It's just, on a higher level, and it's like the Clintons, Clinton Global Initiative is just like a slush fund for grifters,
Oh, they're super good at it. I think they're up to the billions now. Like they're all their shit together, $2.2 billion, something like that. How do you make $2.2 billion on philanthropy, right? How do you make $2.2 billion helping people? I don't even know how to comprehend how that's possible. Like when you look at the bank account, you're like, 2.2 billion. Are you sure you couldn't have helped out maybe one more person?
Yeah. Well, and here's the idea too. They're telling you profit and it's non-tax and all this nonsense. Oh, it's non-profit, yet you have $2 billion. How does that work?
Yeah, and there's nobody you could think of that you could help. Like what? I mean, I just feel like you could have used it if you built, one house. Maybe you could have built two with $2.2 billion.
Well, for Haiti. Well, and you're stealing it from, the poorest people on the planet. I mean, how fucking sorry are you?
Well, yeah, especially when like we're in the age of like of manufactured homes and like the tiny homes and all sorts of that. I could find some amazing architects, a couple of scientists, right, and a couple of building companies, and probably build like rebuild most of Haiti for $1 billion, and they got 2.2 billion.
Yeah, what are these mobiles? I mean, you get like a single wide for like $1,000. I mean, we know that's how much it costs. I can go anywhere and buy one.
Oh yeah, and when you're going to places where you're like, oh, I've got 100 million, right? They sweeten the deal, right? You're getting them at pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, so add it up. I mean, that's like you could outfit a whole city for the money they have.
Yeah, exactly. No, you could literally rebuild an entire city. I mean, I would come in and say, hey, we need places that can withstand, the hurricanes that'll come through. Work with your environment. But the point is, you could do some amazing things with that kind of cash. They didn't do anything, like less than nothing. It would have been better if they had done nothing at all. Because they took a bunch of support and help away from other people that could have used it. It would have literally been better if they hadn't done anything at all. Yeah, sad to think about. So the ambassador to UK. Do you guys have any story on that? Any backstory on that? Why these guys?
Oh
seem to
yeah,
hate each other?
yeah.
Oh, and snacks.
Hold on.
Wake up! Come on.
Sounds like he's getting into a bag of chips.
Sorry, with supplements. Yeah. So the ambassador of the United States to the United Kingdom called Trump a retard.
Out of nowhere? Like, is this the UK ambassador?
No. This is the United States ambassador to the United Kingdom. Called Trump.
Oh,
Yeah, he called him. He basically
incompetent,
called
right?
incompetent. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was because him and the UK ambassador are also having a little bit of a beef. I think he stepped down. Does he say? Did he mention why he called him incompetent, or just just
I'm trying to
after,
think.
after just stating everything like the same thing that
Well,
we all know.
he thinking about what went on the last time he was in that area before he visited the UK, the time before that when he visited the Queen, and then he went to Ireland. He thought that Ireland, the whole island, the whole country of Ireland, was still under the British Crown, and he didn't know that there was a division between North Ireland and regular Ireland. So I
Well,
think
and
that
he
might have had
also, more importantly, his son went out, ran up a bar tab, and then skipped town.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, which is like a huge no-no. But yeah, and I think there's probably some division, just recently with him and North Korea and all of that. I'm sure Bolton and all of those guys and our ambassadors are not always happy with that, because it seemed like he did some of that on the fly, and that's not in the cards. They want war. As well as I know they were unhappy about the Iranian false flag not going through. So yeah, I'm sure there is a little bit of division between them. Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I imagine there is between like I said, there's a little bit of wild card status that it doesn't seem like they had planned for Trump and Kim Jong-un to meet, which is another spot where they would like to build up, and they're not getting the opportunity to. It's going in the other direction.
So, I did explain what kind of is going on with Kim, and I don't think I said it on this show. I might have said it. I don't know who the fuck I said it to. So what Kim is doing now is, Kim has no real intention of giving up his nukes, because if he gives up his nukes, he gives up his regime. So what he's doing now is he is playing the, okay, I will go to your summits, but I'm not going to do anything. And he will do this over and over and over and over and over again until nothing gets done, because Kim knows that, if he gives up any of his nukes, well, he can, like, if any kind of nuclear deal would go on, like if Trump was smart, he'd say, okay, you get to keep 3 nukes and that's it. But,
I mean, it's at a certain point, like, yeah. So what if Kim Jong-un has nuclear weapons? Is he going to bomb somebody?
No, he's not. He really isn't.
Yeah, so like the fact that my goal is peace, right? That's it. I could care less if he has nuclear. It's nation sovereignty. He can have whatever the fuck he wants in his own country.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care either, because
that's a different story.
He's like that weird kid, the weird kid in class that says, "I'm gonna fucking kill you all," but he never does it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, eventually, it looks like there's going to be some sort of reunification, which is the goal. I don't want to have these weird bases surrounding other countries, daring them to hit us.
It's actually no North Korea I'm not scared of. It's actually, and I hate to say this, but it's it's a Chinese now, specifically with the islands that they have in the South China Sea near the Philippines, where they're building up military islands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't.
That's scary on another scale.
I don't want to be the advocate of the devil, but. And for North Korea to have nuclear capabilities would actually be very great from a humanitarian standpoint. I mean, if all the people in North Korea finally get access to free energy, for example, to greatly help these people who live in total poverty. Some of them don't have electricity.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
the
our
only
goal has just been to starve them to keep a war going on, and I don't think that's particularly worked.
well, yeah, Kim for the last 25 years, maybe even longer, has supported the regime has supported itself mainly through criminal acts to support the country. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the 2014 Bangladesh hack, Bank of Bangladesh hack, where they got away with $200 million. Then there was BitThumb, and there was a Chinese bank. Whenever you hear about a big cryptocurrency hack or an online bank attack that's hundreds of millions of dollars, it's always North Korea with the Lazarus Group. And
Yeah, but I
during
mean,
the
on the
'90s,
same,
in the '90s and the early 2000s, Kim wasn't in power then. It was his father, but they
it
were
was his dad.
supporting North Korea with state-sponsored meth labs, and they still have. I believe they legalized marijuana, so they're supporting illegal marijuana trade to other countries by doing
Well,
that.
their
They're still
economy
producing
is
heroin.
almost all ran on hemp. So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
all
they're
their
still producing
uniforms and
heroin.
everything, hemp, not heroin.
No,
Hemp. I mean, they
they
may
have
be.
they are growing heroin over
Oh, I'm
there.
sure they are. I mean, we just got done saying that we're starving them to death. So I mean, like, what starving nation, what starving people don't end up resorting to some sort of crime to make ends meet? I mean, what else are you gonna do? Starve?
Well, I think there's only like two or three countries that actually deal with trade with him, and I think it's Norway and some other Scandinavian country, and
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I
about
don't.
it.
Yeah, there's not. They don't do a lot of trade. I mean, we've sanctioned them all that we can sanction. There's nothing going in and out. That's it. I don't think that that's particularly worked. I don't care if they've got a nuclear weapon. That same thing goes for Iran. I don't care if they've got a nuclear weapon. I'm not sending millions of Americans to die
Honestly,
because you're
for
making a weapon.
Iran to have a tactical nuclear weapon, they need more uranium than they have on hand.
Well,
And
I mean, we'd have to sell it to them. There's all sorts of parts that we don't have to sell to them. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we don't have to do. We don't have to play ball, but surrounding them, I mean, why? I mean, how else are you going to keep people? It's like an unending circle that doesn't have to fucking continue.
yeah,
And you're inside your country inside of your borders is your business.
Yeah, and if they were like an aggressive, offensive country, really trying to hurt like the USA, then I would fear, as United States citizens, I would fear like biological weapons far more, like diseases and stuff. So it's much easier to make too.
Militarily, as far as weapons are concerned, I mean, it's just not. Even if you killed every single person on the continental United States, we've still got enough nuclear weapons to destroy the entire planet. Like, we're good. You know what I mean? Like, at a certain point, you can only destroy the planet one time.
yeah.
So yeah, and when it comes to Iran, I mean, I think Iran and South Korea or North Korea are the only two countries that want nuclear weapons that don't have them. I think Japan has taken a stand against nuclear weapons, and a couple other countries here and there have, but just about everyone else has nuclear weapons. India, Pakistan, Turkey, everybody's got UK, France, Germany. I mean, I think Germany doesn't, right? They've got some other toys. Right? Like, everybody's got nuclear weapons. Everybody. All pointing in them in each other, screaming at the top of their lungs. I don't care. And, like, I've seen a whole bunch of pictures of, like, Iranians around, like, one little centrifuge huddled around it to go, like, 2 ounces over the limit. I don't care.
Well, my country claims not to have nuclear weapons, but I know they're literally laying around in my country, and they're like NATO weapons. America just stores them here, and they can be like fitted like below like fighter jets in no time. So,
well, yeah, if there's an American base there, we've got a nuclear weapon close by. The Russians, the Chinese. Throwing out some scary words here.
Remember when that Lindsey Graham, said some shit a few years ago about they were going to blow up like Charleston Harbor, and they moved a nuke from a Texas base, and even the commander didn't know. It's like, what are you talking about? There's a nuke on this base. He didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
And they're moving the thing to Charleston, and you're like, what the fuck?
And well, we made a whole crap load of them, and then like just had kind of an open season there for a little bit. So there's a whole bunch of like nuclear weapons that we don't. If we made them like all the way up to the 60s and 70s, we didn't keep like super good track of them.
Well, we also lost a couple. Remember? Like.
Oh yeah, there's one in a lake on the East Coast that we like. It's in there. It could blow up at any moment.
No, remember we had like a broken arrow situation where like a general defected and he ran off with a nuclear a suitcase nuclear weapon.
Oh no, there's been a couple of times where we've lost bombs, where we've like dropped them in lakes and just straight up lost them. Yeah, there's been one time, and goodness, I forget his name right off the top of my head, but yeah, there was one time the country all went up to the world all went up to that very point, and the Russian officer that was given the order, he got a false negative on however their system works to launch the nuclear weapons, didn't do it. And he pretty much single-handedly like saved the world, because it did like a couple of, a little bit later, it turned out that it was a false positive, but he got the we're under attack, everybody launch, this is it. And he was just like, yeah, fuck it. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to end the world. But yeah, he single-handedly saved all of our asses. Can you imagine? No, like none of the people that are in charge now would have made that decision. I'm not, I mean, my personal, I'm not even sure, even if we are attacked by nuclear weapons, are we going to destroy the world? Is that the plan? That is a bad plan. I want a new plan.
Nuclear weapons and even nuclear, how should I say this? Really, those kind of weapons have no place on this earth, because it only results in extreme catastrophe. I mean, look at it. Nuclear power. What are we talking about? We're talking about the same kind of shit that the sun's made out of. It really.
Well,
these are the kind of weapons that we're dealing with. In there are really no survivors with the kind of stuff that we have out now. We have stuff that's so powerful that it can literally shatter the core of the planet into several pieces.
That's not the best. And that's not the best way. I mean, that's not even the best way to murder everybody. I mean,
that's destroy the planet kind of shit.
Yeah, we have biological weapons that'll kill everyone. I mean, if that's a win, it just doesn't seem like that's a win for me.
It's a win for nobody.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems, like I said, these all seem like bad. Well, this is, even then when somebody comes up to you and they're like, hey, we need $1 trillion to research a biological weapon that'll kill everybody on the planet. No. Here, I will give you $1 million not to make that. What a bad idea. What, are you an evil scientist? Is there a factory that pumps out evil scientists? There comes a certain point where, that is a bad idea. You've got bad people in charge. That brilliant of mine that could make that, can you make me a weapon that'll heal everyone? Boy, howdy, that'd be fucking powerful. You pretty much get anybody to do whatever you wanted. If you develop a fucking, a vaccine that makes you immune to every single disease, you'll be the most popular fucking country on the planet. People will give you anything that you want. You ain't even gonna kill them.
Yeah.
The weird thing is you don't even need such weapons again anymore in these times. Like back then, like in World War II and shortly after with the Cold War and stuff, you had such powerful forces versus such powerful forces that they actually decide to have stronger and stronger bombs, stronger and stronger stuff to be able to beat each other. But right now, it's such a powerful army like America, for example. There aren't really any enemies. Maybe in the far future, China or whatever. But
no, at the moment, we have to train our enemies ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. So why do you even need such strong weapons anymore? It's not you don't need it, actually.
There is
no Germany fight.
Yeah, there's some seriously scared people out there. I mean, they're just scared.
I could understand it if you have the Luftwaffe today, right? If you have nowadays, you had Germany at the strength during World War II. with modern fighter jets, I could understand it, but you don't have it, so yeah.
No, we have to invent our enemies at this point. There just isn't any, and none of the real things that we could use those resources on, we want to use them on. I know on our list we've got the just for people that are listening, on Sunday the 14th, there's going to be ice raids across the country. Be ready, know your rights. You still you don't have to answer the door, and if they're going to come in, they have to have a warrant. If they have a warrant, chances are they ain't going to knock anyway. So, yeah, be ready. But at this same moment, as we said before, Louisiana is already underwater. You know what I mean? Some of the worst flooding that they've already had. And rather than mobilize anything of importance, they're going to mobilize thousands and thousands of people, spend, millions, if not $1 billion, put resources and equipment and trucks and all of this shit together, and they're not going to help anybody. They're going to go and fuck with people's families, right? When they could send those same people down to Louisiana to actually do some good, and they'll never do it. And that doesn't even count for the hurricanes that are coming. They could send those people down there and just prepare for the hurricanes that are coming. They ain't going to do that either. They're going to use all those resources for nothing. For nothing.
Fucked up authoritarian freaks.
Yeah, like when you're all like, we're in the middle, there's a named hurricane about to smash into the bottom of the U.S. And what are they organizing? What are they amassing thousands of people to do? Arrest immigrants. Like, okay, dude, I understand you want to arrest them immigrants, but do we have time for this?
Oh, you're talking about the whole ICE shit that's going on right now?
ICE is not, well, they're going to have a big ICE raid again on Sunday, or they're planning one. They're not planning to help people during the hurricane, is the point I'm making.
Even the timing is weird. Like, why not even wait? Like, maybe these immigrants can actually help to help some victims of this hurricane.
Oh, 100%.
Instead of rounding them up
right now, right? There would be all the help that you can get to rebuild, to do all the things that we need to do, but that's just not the mindset that they have. They're going to get as many trucks and heavily armored guys as they possibly can together, as much of guys in shiny fucking boots as they can, and rather than help anybody, they're going to oppress people. That's what we do. Shit,
right.
I don't even know how they're going to pull it off in the south, east of the U.S., because there's a hurricane going on.
Yeah.
And any of those, those thousands of people that they're going to put to make this nationwide streak, they could put to helping people during this hurricane.
Yeah, exactly.
For it. Ugh. It's a nightmare. And that doesn't even count the, all of the detention centers that they've put in low-lying areas that are now right in the middle of a hurricane spot. What are you planning on doing with all of those people? There's not enough, cars or trains or oh, my God, maybe they will put them on trains. That's how you know you are fucked. Right? Right? But there's not enough buses and, transportation and people to, if there's an evacuation, to move them. Some of those places are just like gates underneath a bridge. What are they going to do with all of those people?
I don't know.
Just leave them to die? And I mean, we're counting down the hours now before this hurricane hits. Are they going to act like, oh, we didn't know, there was nothing we could do? Sorry about losing all those people chained underneath the flood zone. My bad. You going to be at golf on Friday? Yeah, it's really, really sad. But yeah, just for everybody, some of our viewers are down with it. Some people aren't down with it, but we got to put out the info either way. So yeah, Sunday, the 14th, raids normally start super early in the morning. So 3-4 o'clock in the morning, they like to hit people.
Don't go to work.
Yeah, I would stay away from all of those. Keep your allies with, as lookouts for, suspicious vans filled with heavily armed kidnappers. If you see those, call them out. But yeah, that's gonna be going down. Gestapo hard at work.
Shocking,
in this case, it's God, you guys don't have anything better to do. And yes, there is better stuff you could be doing.
Well, you know what I heard is that this was coming from the White House. Out of the 1.5 million people that they wanted to go after, they said they were only targeting 2,000 of them, which I thought was a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, they're not going just after 2,000 people. They're going after anybody that they can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I know there's talk about right now about DHS being defunded altogether. I mean, I think
It's a waste of money.
We really need to go back to pre 2000, 2002. A lot of people have given me, well, all these
TSA.
things
I think TSA is a fucking waste of money. You know how much shit
they put
goes through
everything
TSA.
down there. They even put the Coast Guard underneath DHS.
Well, TSA,
Why?
well, you know what? They haven't prevented shit since they've been around. You remember that little boy that climbed on a fucking airplane, and TSA didn't even say anything, and there was he managed to hop a fence and he went around the platform and went up into an airplane on the.
I'm fine with the airlines handling their own security. Like TSA has gone way too far.
Didn't Terrence? I told you what happened the last time I was on a plane. They swabbed me for DNA.
Oh yeah, man! I get the full.
I was like, I didn't even know what was going on. They were asking me where I'm going,
hand job and all,
where I'm coming from. I was detained for like almost 20 minutes, and I was just like, why are you asking me these questions? You know where I came from, where I'm going, yada yada yada. I was making it more difficult for them than it needs to be. But I kept on asking them, what did you swab my on my hands? What did you do? And they wouldn't answer it. And then finally, one of you guys told me that they swabbed me for DNA.
Yeah, it's for they'll swab you for DNA and they swab you for your explosives. So the one that they put down your laptop or whatever is normally explosives, and then the one that they get from your fingers and all of that shit, your hair, sometimes they'll run it over the back of your hair and they'll take, you know what I mean, they get your hair when they do that.
Yeah, they had like a weird piece of tape and they just moved it over my hands and said, what are you doing? And then they put it over some sensor or some weird shit.
We're putting your DNA record on so we can activate your clone here pretty soon.
That was the most bizarre shit. And I was just going on an airplane.
It's so nice once you leave U.S. soil and you're no longer dealing with the fucking Gestapo. It is such a relief. Like, all airports have security, right? But
I've been offshore. Like it's completely different, but the U.S. is ridiculous when it comes to security.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, all airports have security. That's just, I mean, that's fine. But it's interesting to go from somewhere that's extremely authoritarian to somewhere that isn't, and the way that their authority figures see you seem like a crazy person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you come up to a thing and it's a security check and you start like taking off all of your clothes and like getting out your standard fucking DNA swab, they think like you're a crazy person. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm getting undressed. Why? For the security check? We don't do that here, man. Do I not get my rectal exam? No. Do you have any drugs on you? No. All right, keep walking, dude. That's where my questioning ends. If you get caught with drugs, you're in shitloads of trouble. I'm supposed to ask you if you have drugs. Yeah, but no, our security is just insane. And like, they walk around with like the bomb dogs. Those bomb dogs will find a bomb, no doubt, no problem.
Yeah.
Those little bomb dogs will find a bomb anywhere. You ain't hiding it. Right? Where you come to the States, and ours are the exact opposite. We're walking around with like fucking GMO quality fucking gene edited attack dogs. Welcome to America. Please turn in your freedom card. Keep all identification near you. Do not make any sudden movements while being scanned. Deadly force is always authorized.
It's the freedom to sit down and shut up.
Yeah, or we'll shoot you. Like, it's not even just sit down and shut up. It's sit down and shut up, or we'll shoot you.
Yeah, I work with a guy. He's from the UK, and he says the American dream is an illusion. I said, I don't know who the fuck sold you that there was an American dream.
You have to be asleep to enjoy it.
Well, actually, they don't have it much better in the UK. They're actually more monitored than we are.
They're like trying so hard. Like, they saw how bad America has like went down. They're like, wow, we should totally do that.
They have the
Like,
biggest. They have the biggest surveillance program. I
oh
think.
yeah, there's not a
Yeah,
corner of London that isn't under video
surveillance.
surveillance.
Oh, that is true. It is really
And you
bad.
saw how like openly their like secret police and stuff were able to operate around the embassy. During like when the Assange arrest was coming up, I mean, three full teams of whatever they were, undercover mercenaries, whatever the fuck that they were running around there, given 24-hour surveillance. And most of the time, embassies get super upset when you send mercenaries to sit outside their embassies.
Yeah.
We definitely saw, some of that hard at work there.
Yeah, and it isn't even just cameras in London. They also have like sound recording stuff and like sound activated stuff. Like there is like a microphone built in at the camera, and then when there's like a fight and you start shouting towards each other, they like literally register like this increasing volume, and they literally have like a button going off or like a light going off, and they will see you on cam, and they will actually send police or whatever to you.
Yeah, fuck, if you have to work that hard to catch somebody doing a crime, they're probably not doing a crime.
No, exactly.
Like, I don't think their stabbing rate has went down at all. If I'm not mistaken, it's went up.
No, exactly, yeah, because but with the strong gun policies, they actually have a lot of stabbing because anyone can get a knife like from their kitchen. So
yeah, I mean, and it is different. People can be violent, but on the same note, I like my chances a lot better against a knife than a gun. I'm still in pretty good shape, right? So if I can get something between me and you, I don't think you're gonna get to stab me. Right? Good table, car.
No, you're right.
I'm pretty quick, but a bullet, yeah, there's no coming back from that. But no, we definitely there's between the poverty rate in England now is out of control, and with that all the problems that come along with it. Not all violence stems from poverty, but everywhere I've seen poverty, I've seen violence. Yeah. People will do anything to survive, and when you get a situation where two people are willing to do anything to survive, you have things like stabbing.
Yeah, with the whole gun ownership stuff, we don't have it here, but the only reason I would say like it's a good thing is to actually defend against a corrupt government. It's the only thing I can say about it.
I've always been a big supporter of well-trained militias. I definitely think that there's been a concerted effort to take the legitimacy, even though it's mentioned in our Constitution, and the power away from militias. I think even with our current gun issue, most gun owners believe that you do need certain training and mental stability test and all of that kind of stuff, but don't particularly trust the government to do it. And I think the militias would have been a organization that would have been set up to do that, where that you do have a place where you can make sure that your guys are trained that aren't connected to the government like that. In fact, are put there specifically to keep them in check. But I'm not sure if we went past that time. I know we've talked about that on before. It's just there's very little you can do with normal firearm to fight against drones. Predator drones hitting you from any distance away they want to. Attack helicopters, APCs. You end up having to have such. You can't really buy the kind of hardware that you would need to realistically respond against that. Just defund them. Vote them out of fucking office. Like that takes care of it. No money, no tank. Sorry.
The political solution. Well, it's too bad that doesn't work. I mean, that really is a solution. But I just
it looks much easier on paper.
Yeah.
It looks much easier on paper. Yeah, in my mind, we're almost going to have to get the military and the certain government agencies to be on our side. There's almost no way around it. Just because if they're, you can do, like I said, you can do so much damage with such a small amount of people now. Yeah,
you can't get
I'm not big on on violent revolution, but I'm also violent revolution happens throughout human history, so it may happen again.
Well, yeah, you're going to see it. I keep wondering when the French thing's going to bust loose, because how long are they going to march over there before they go to the next step? I mean, that's going to it's been going on a long time.
Yeah, every day, because it's gotten to the point now where the Marcon doesn't even seem to give a fuck.
No, they threw you some crumbs early on. Then after that, it was fuck it. We're just gonna keep throwing the cops at you until you give up. But they don't give up.
Which they're not doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which they're not doing. Every weekend they're at it.
It seems like over time they need to get to the next step.
Seems like I'm not the only one who's having lag.
Yeah, it seems like every time certain subjects we definitely start lagging out on. Weird.
Oh yeah, I went to a red connection now. Now it's yellow.
Yeah.
Now
What's
it's
going
green.
on with that? Yeah. Oh, come on, guys! Don't be getting all upset. Okay, the French are known for fucking violent revolution. That's their thing. You'll have to start panicking, fucking hitting the record button. We're talking about revolution. It's go. Green light, green light, green light.
Yeah, it's the Discord voice to text converter. It's that fast now, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I see that our options are so very open, and our enemy knows violence so well. I see it as just being a last resort, if a resort at all. But the same unity that it would take to get thousands of people to march armed in the streets or millions of people to march armed in the streets is the same unity it would take to do anything else.
All right, guys, we have like 7 minutes left.
Well, we discussed it with our guest too earlier this evening, right? We need to be able to change the paradigm. That it becomes popular to be on our side, that it becomes safe to be on our side.
Agreed.
That we have like such an obvious majority. And then if you want like a violent overthrow, probably the enemy will just like dump their weapons in front of you then if you have such an overwhelming majority. But,
yeah, and I think we're going to have to come to that point. It's really like, you get shit. You guys know I'm a dirty tree hugger. Right? And you get shit when you're picking up trash somewhere, and all the time, like in everything, people ask, well, what does just one person can do? Well, look, man, not all that much, but there's 7 billion of us. 7 billion of us. If we made picking up trash, trendy and said, everybody at this moment, bend down and pick down a piece of trash, that's 7 billion pieces of trash out of the system right at that very moment. We have like huge amounts of power now and never use it. If we trick them into, if we talk them into picking up 4 pieces of trash, right? You look at the numbers that you're dealing with compared to the numbers of people in power, the numbers of the people that are oppressing us, right? If we ever figure out the amount of power that we have, which I think they're starting to see in places like Hong Kong, right? Hong Kong showed what unity looks like.
Yeah, and at some point that you reach such an amount of people that the families, like the police officers who like go to the street, or the soldiers who go to the street, that their families will actually say like, you know what you're going towards today, but just stay at home and call in sick, right?
Yeah, that's fine, man. We ain't gonna hate on you. Call in sick. Everybody in that department got the flu.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, they just got the flu from each other.
Look, when the checks quit coming, right? They had the TSA flu. Remember when they quit paying everybody and the government shut down, and like 90% of their people called in sick? You can do that for things that are real.
Yeah, just do that. I mean, that makes things easier. You won't have to find an excuse or whatever to. You don't have to like fuck up your job. Just call in sick for once and let us do our job.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think we got through just about everything. Are we gonna have what? We got 9 minutes left. Not even.
5 minutes. Well, less 4 minutes actually.
Are we gonna have a show on Sunday?
I don't know.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. All right. Well, if we do, I know like Sundays aren't our definite show, so it's normally only when we have specials, and there's so much going on. We may have a couple of people come up here, a couple of guests coming up, and if we do, we will have some special 2-hour shows when those come down. Yeah, other than that, we really, thank you for everybody that listened to us and is involved. We'll try to get to all your comments and questions and all of that stuff. Please share out as much information as you can. And I know I say this every time, but it's not just from us. We're not saying, look, share out, Anonymous Bites Back, live show. We're not saying that, right? We're saying share out the truth as much as possible, whether it's Assange, whether it's about the prison industrial complex, military industrial complex, right? Whether it's about the censorship that's going on around us, right? The corruption that's all around us as well. Whether it's things that are deliberately good and positive and show unity, right? Make sure to share the truth as much as possible, because trust me, our opponents, the people that are sharing the bad shit and the lies, for sure, right? They're sharing and posting and retweeting and making sure that the word gets out. So we gotta do the same. More.
Yeah.
We got to do everything they do, but better. So yeah, definitely a big thank you to all of our followers, but please make sure to share it out, like us, retweet us, subscribe, push all those buttons, whatever you got to do. Hit the streets, make signs,
ring that
signals.
little bell. Don't forget to ring the little bell.
Ring the bell so you get updates. All of that shit. You know what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, all the other live streamers have said it, but yeah, this is important. There's real stuff going on. The world is either underwater or on fire right now. So make sure to share some stuff.
Okay, and real quick, stay tuned, because in 2 hours there will be a great interview released by Rico Brouwer with the UN torture specialist Niels Meltzer about the whole torturing Assange thing. We will drop it on Twitter, on our ABB Twitter. It'll be on Rico's Twitter, and we will. So in about 2 hours, I think it will be available.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. As soon as that's up, we will have it going and sharing it out to everybody. But yeah, please share that out.
Yeah, he said 9:30 my time, and it is 8 o'clock here now. So 1.5 hours. Yeah.
All right.
Well, and it's a little bit later here, so.
Should I just roll out with the credits?
Oh, I think we got our finisher here.
All right.
Don't forget to spay and neuter all politicians.
All right, and we'll roll out with the credits.
Dun, 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 dun.
I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly. I order all those assembled to